Pirates Fire Dragon Roar Chapter 441 to 460. Chapter 441 Emergence. Lord God. Nami looked surprised. Is there still such a person on this island? Don't say that, Miss Nami. Canis looked around with a guilty conscience, and there was a moment of fine sweat oozing out on her face, looking a little scared. Don't speak ill of the gods on Sky Island. Is that a bad word? Nami was a little speechless. How fragile is this so-called god Sama? Such a god. Vivi Isho, a green-haired man with 3 knives hanging around his waist. There's no more than the amount of artifacts that can't be slandered. Of course, the god Sama won't mind, but... Canis pulled Nami and walked into a dark corner with the Straw Hat group, but God's most loyal supporter, the God's Guard, will not allow any offense. God's Guard. Straw Hat blinked her big eyes and looked very curious. God. Ahaha, Sky Island is really interesting. God's Guard is the most loyal subordinate of Lord God, and every one of them is strong like a monster. They used to be the guardians of Sky Island, but recently they've become the shrine's exclusive guard. Doesn't even the people ignore the people in order to protect the shrine? Nami said indignantly. What kind of god is this? Miss Nami. Canis looked very scared. I said don't say anything like that. The reason why the guards of the gods were sent to guard the shrine is because there are new guardians. Look, it's them. Canis pointed to a place not far away. The guardians created by the gods, super reliable guys, dragon-tooth soldiers. The Straw Hat turned his head along with Canis's fingers. That's cuckoo. In just a moment, there seemed to be a bright light in his eyes, and his mouth opened wide. It's a robot. Not far from a few people, on the bustling street, a group of white dwarfs are blatantly crossing the streets, carrying a long gun in their hands and a long sword hanging around their waists, which are completely different from human appearances. Looks sharp and angular. www. K and shish uge. __la_. Although it is a robot, it is not rejected by the public at all. Instead, it is unexpectedly very popular. There are even angel children with wings sitting on their shoulders, very happy. Calm down, head idiot. The curly-browed chef hugged his captain's head tightly, looking speechless. Although they are really handsome, these guys are not our friends. It's really a robot. Nami's eyes widened. Unbelievable. Is the technology on Sky Island so advanced? Oh no. Canis shook her head. Before the Lord God came, the only technology we used was Yunnan. It was said that these robots were created by Lord God. Before you come. Zoro looked a little surprised. Is this god an outsider? Well. Canis nodded. Just like you, Lord God rushed to Sky Island for the first time more than 2 years ago, appeared on this island, defeated the previous god, and unified this war-torn Sky Island, became the new god. What? Mr. Longnose was extremely surprised. Isn't he this god a person from Sky Island? A person from Blue Sea like us? Of course it is. The chef took a deep breath. Look closely, that flag. His eyes looked at the flag in the distance. Isn't that a pirate flag? Pirate flag. Longnose looked at the flag fluttering in the wind in the distance, and said in amazement, it really looks like this. That is to say, is the Lord God of Sky Island also a pirate from the Blue Sea? Ah, is it a pirate? The Straw Hat looked like he had realized it later. It turns out to be a pirate too. What, instead of being a pirate, what kind of god would you go to this place to be? Do you have the courage to fight against the monsters at sea? The green-haired swordsman said with some disdain. It turned out to be the loser at sea. You're wrong about that, Mr. Zoro. The exploding skull said with a smile. You are absolutely wrong. What? The swordsman looked a little surprised. No, the man this flag represents is not a loser, on the contrary. Brooke said with a bit of excitement, that one is one of the few heroes in this sea. Brooke, do you know him? Miss Nami looked surprised. Well, Mr. Sanji and Miss Robin know that too. Brooke nodded, saying so. Ah, Of course. Sanji slowly exhaled a ring of smoke, and said, I met once, and he is a man who will never be forgotten once he has seen it. Although I've only heard of this man's reputation. Robin's face is very calm, but his eyes are full of fear, but I also know that that man is a well-deserved hero at sea. Have you all heard of it? The little reindeer ship doctor looked a little scared. From the mouths of his three companions, he could tell that the man who ruled Sky Island was definitely not a simple role. Who is it? Mr. Longnose swallowed and said nervously, this so-called god. What a coincidence. Brooke said. No, it must be such a coincidence, isn't it? Sanji smiled. Well, what a coincidence. Robin agreed. What the hell are you talking about? The Straw Hat is picking its nostrils, looking silly and sweet. I mean, it's too bad Mr. Ace didn't come up with us. Sanji pointed at the flag with his hand. What? Chlorella was startled, curly eyebrows, you mean? What that flag stands for? Nicole Robin's expression was very heavy. It's the man Mr. Ace is looking for, one of the King Shichibukai, the fire dragon Vlad. May the bounty be 750 million, a guy far more terrifying than Crocodile. Quote. The beautiful navigator turned pale in shock. Did you meet another King Shichibukai soon? Why? 700 million. The long-nosed man's eyes turned white, and he instantly felt like the world was spinning. Luffy, nah, Luffy. The tearful reindeer hugged his captain's thigh tightly. Let's go down from Sky Island quickly. Okay. Your Majesty Shichibukai. However, the Straw Hat's face was very interested. Is he stronger than a crocodile? It's really interesting. Luffy. However, he was the only one who had such an idea, the green-haired swordsman said seriously. This time, there is no Mr. Ace to help us, King Shichibukai, all of them are monsters. Although very unwilling, but... Ah, I know, Zoro. Straw Hat had an excited smile on his face. It's just that I can't help but get excited when I think that there are such powerful guys in the ocean. Yeah, haha, that's interesting. Such a voice suddenly came from the heads of the Straw Hats. I know the captain's identity and I'm not afraid at all. It's interesting. Is it a newborn calf that is not afraid of tigers? Or is it really a group of amazing pirates? What? Everyone in the Straw Hat group was not surprised, and no one was far behind that person's arrival. The person incarnated by thunder and lightning gently landed in front of several people, smiling. Just let me measure it. Chapter 442 Play. This guy is. In an instant, he entered a state of battle, and the pirate hunter, Roronoa. Zoro instantly pulled out the saber from his waist. His face was full of fear. I didn't notice his appearance at all. Amazing. The weak trio of the Straw Hat pirates, Nami, Usopp, and Chopper shivered and hugged into a ball with tears streaming down their faces, looking very scared. Yes. Also very frightened is the angel girl Canis. Since Enel appeared in this place, it naturally means that the group of Qingdao people she brought has attracted the attention of the gods. Then, her behavior, it's worth considering. It's Master Enel. Yaha, the little sister of the angel tribe and the pirates from the Blue Sea, hey. Enel tilted his head, squatted on the low wall in front of everyone, smiled. What an interesting combination. Master Enel. Canis bowed and saluted frantically, with a frantic look on her face. Get out of the way, woman. Enel doesn't have any intention of pity. This man just wants to help his captain become One Piece, king of pirates, and he doesn't care about all other things. Don't disturb my play. Yes, Lord Enel. Canis carefully avoided it. Although it was quite pleasant to get along with the Straw Hat pirates, this was not the reason for them to offend the gods. However, this woman is really a kind woman. Let me introduce, Mr. Luffy, this is Lord God's subordinate, Lord Thor on this island. It means that this person is a subordinate of the god Sama, so it is best to have a better attitude. So, get out of the way. Enel repeated impatiently. Of course, the attitude towards ordinary people is different from that of partners, and Enel has never been a good person. Yes, yes. Aware of Enel's unhappiness, Canis ran away in a hurry. Without looking back, what she could do was limited to this, and she couldn't do any more. Woo. Enel was very satisfied with her attitude and smiled. Okay, everyone who is in the way is gone now. It's time to have fun with you guys. Long time no see, Mr. Enel. Seemingly aware of this man's malicious intentions, the skeleton man took the initiative to say hello. It's me. Yatilda, take a closer look, there are still two acquaintances. Enel looked a little surprised, the skeleton in Moria, and the chef's good friend. Of course, he recognized Brooke, who had extremely obvious features, and no possibility of admitting mistakes, and Sanji, who also had obvious curly eyebrows. Long time no see, Mr. Enel. Sanji also took the initiative to say hello. The opponent is too strong, and it is of course the best choice to avoid conflicts. Sanji, Brooke, someone you know. The Straw Hat looked very curious. Well, there was a relationship once, and a friend of mine was on the dragon's boat. Sanji nodded. Mr. Enel is Mr. Vlad's partner and all my benefactors. Brooke smiled. Even with his skeleton face, it still made people feel good. Woo. Nami breathed a sigh of relief, so it's not the enemy. It scared me to death. Yeah. Chopper clutched his little heart, looking very scared. It scared me to death. This is not the time to relax, assholes. Zoro was unmoved at all, and at some point, a dark green turban had appeared on his head. This guy, the malice has overflowed. Ah, Zoro is right. The Straw Hat's face was very serious, his hand was on the straw hat above his head, and he said solemnly, this guy is the enemy. What? Nami was already stunned. Why? Isn't that Brooke and Sanji-kun's old acquaintance? Yeah, haha, there are still people who understand. Enel laughed loudly. Isn't that obvious? Idiots, such a simple truth. Sky Island is the territory of our fire dragon pirates, but you guys are entering directly without permission, hee. Enel's eyes widened. This is a naked invasion. Fighting the invaders, yeah, isn't it an incomprehensible act? Woo. After blowing out a smoke ring, the brow chef threw the cigarette butt in his hand on the ground, and his black big-toed shoes ran over it. Sure enough, this guy is a difficult man to get along with. That is to say. Brooke also sighed. Isn't it okay not to fight? No. The weak trio hugged once again. Why did Shichibukai just go to Sky Island? Since you can't escape, you can only fight. Zoro's expression was solemn. Battle. Hey, what are you talking about? Enel looked insulted. What nonsense. Can you make me use the word battle? Don't worry, I won't kill you. As long as you can have fun with me and make me happy, it's not impossible to let you go. Then, have fun. 3 swords, tiger hunt. Like a flash of light that suddenly cut through the sky, 3 beautiful knife lights flashed away. Scoff. Named Roranoa, Zoro launched the attack without hesitation. Since it has been determined that he is the enemy, then of course there is no reason for hesitation. This man will not be confused on the road of chasing his dream. There was a look of surprise on Enel's face, his head flying in the air. Wow, hacked to death. Nami yelled. It's so miserable, the body has been chopped into several pieces. It's over, now, I've completely offended the fire dragon. Quiet, Nami, this guy. Straw Hat Luffy said solemnly. Crack. Electric light flickered, and the Enel, which was originally cut into several pieces by Zoro, turned into lightning and reassembled in front of several people, looking at ease. Yeah, haha, that's amazing, he's a good swordsman. Maybe that guy Sakata will impress you. What's the matter? Usopp said in disbelief. This guy, has been chopped into several pieces. Logia, this guy. Nicole Robin was extremely surprised. a Logia fruit power user like crocodile. Moreover, I am afraid that even among Logia, it is a Guro no mi, rumble fruit power user. Logia. The straw hat thought of the sand crocodile that made him feel powerless. Is this just a subordinate of the fire dragon? Nicole Robin felt a little terrified. Okay. Enel smiled, then let's have fun. Betting on your life. Chapter 443 Confused Enel. Fortunately, trash fish, for the chef's sake, I won't kill you. Enel stood up straight, tilted his head, and began to have fine electric lights flickering on his body. He grinned widely, but, if you accidentally overwork and kill you guys, don't blame me, right? It's scary. The weak trio shivered. X23 US. Com updates fastest. Zoro, Sanji, Brooke. Straw Hat's tone was a little low. Let's go together. This guy is not an opponent we can defeat alone. Oh. Zoro nodded in agreement. Although he was a man with a swordsman's style, his opponent was not the swordsman he wanted to challenge. Come on together. Sanji said solemnly, this guy is a real monster. Yeah haha. Enel smiled, yeah, that's what it is. With those eyes, hey, you guys are really nice. You're an interesting bunch of pirates. Stop talking nonsense. You, who made it impossible for me to continue getting along with Kanai's-chan, are my enemy. The man in black jumped up, and the big feet that could easily bend steel had already kicked towards Enel's head. Oh, really, no hockey. Enel didn't lift his head, he stretched out his right hand, and his index finger was raised, facing Sanji's blow. Ding! As if kicking sea stone, Sanji's kick couldn't shake Enel's fingers at all. What? Zoro was stunned. He knew the strength of the curly eyebrows very well. He was definitely as strong as him. However, this guy's attack was actually blocked by a single finger. What's on that guy's finger? Luffy said, like what crocodiles used. Damn. Sanji gritted his teeth, then sank down and pressed his hand to the ground. With such strength, he kicked Enel's head with one leg. Although you can use elementalization to escape, but... Crack. Enel stretched out his hand and easily caught Sanji's leg that could easily kick a rock. Are you guys kicking people with your legs? I really don't like it. Forget it. I'll teach you a lesson. Just, 10 million volts. Crackling. Ah. The lightning that shot up into the sky carried the screams of Sanji. Sanji. Luffy rushed out like an arrow, smashing Enel's chest with a punch. Stop it, Luffy, you bastard. Zoro said loudly, Logia is such a troublesome ability, physical attacks are completely useless, and Luffy will only be injured in vain even if he attacks. Yeah haha, I really don't have a long memory. Enel casually threw Sanji, who had been electrocuted unconscious, with a strong aroma of meat all over his body, and threw it aside, smiling, without any intention of evading. No bully. PFF'd. A heavy punch hit Enel's chest, and Enel, who was caught off guard, was directly knocked out. The weak trio widened their eyes. Hit. Zoro nearly dropped the knife in his mouth. Hey, what's the situation? Was even more surprising was Enel. The dull pain in his chest told him that what happened just now was not a hallucination, and was indeed knocked away by an attack without hockey attached. Is there really no hockey? What's the situation, you guy? Hey, you guy. Luffy yelled, it's a fake Logia. Stretch. Veins burst on Enel's head, how dare you say that? Asshole. Crack. Flash of lightning, and Enel instantly appeared behind Luffy, his hand was already pinching his neck. If it's a fake Logia, come and try it. Let go of Luffy. The moment Enel lifted his straw hat, 3 long knives had already slashed into his back. Just like before, it didn't do anything except bring the crackling thunder. 50 million volts, discharge. Boom. The electric light shot up into the sky, and it seemed that the whole world had dimmed. Hey. Screaming in agony, the swordsman of the three swordsmen was instantly thrown away with no resistance under such an attack, just like the previous Sanji, covered in darkness, collapsed to the ground. The three giants of the Straw Hat Pirates, so far 2 people are already lying down. Zoro. Usopp covered his mouth in disbelief, but in the blink of an eye, 2 of the 3 most capable people on the ship had already fallen. What? Lightning flashed, and Enel was amazed. You bastard. What the hell is going on? In Enel's hand, the Straw Hat is still unscathed, but the aftermath has easily knocked down Zoro's attack, and the Straw Hat is completely unharmed. Hey, bastard, what did you do to Zoro? In Enel's hand, the Straw Hat was struggling. Let go of Mr. Luffy. Before Enel could recover from the shock, Skeleton Brook recovered first, pulled out the long sword from the cane, and stabbed it directly into Enel's back. Of course, he was unharmed. Less annoying. Enel turned his head, very impatient. Thunderbird. There was no need to beat the drums at all, and a taiko drum behind him had turned into a huge Thunderbird, bombarding Brook's body from almost 0 distance. Brook. Quote. Nami covered her mouth, tears were flashing in her eyes, and the sudden change made this woman who had always been steadfast unable to speak at all. Brook. Bastard. Brook. Luffy, who turned his head back with great effort, looked at Brook, who was struck by lightning, with grief and indignation. To die, to die, to die. In the thunder and lightning, Brook screamed so miserably. I'm going to die, even though I'm already a skeleton. Is it going to die again? Yo ho 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 ho, skeleton joke. After saying a lot, Brook snapped back to his senses, huh? Quote. Enel was a little dumbfounded. After that, his expression immediately turned hideous. Damn, I almost forgot, electric shocks are useless to you. This was something I knew from the terrifying triad. Whoosh. Back casually, and Luffy, who was pinched by Enel's hand, was instantly thrown out by him, and smashed heavily on Brook's body. The 2 of them rolled into a ball and flew out. What's the matter? Usopp was very surprised. Is the electric shock useful to Luffy and Brook? Is it because Mr. Captain is rubber and Mr. Brook is bone? Nicole Robin swallowed and said, so it's not conductive, and of course the electric shock won't work for them. Great. Nami looked very excited. If you say that, doesn't Luffy restrain him perfectly? Nico Robin didn't speak. Her eyes were a little gloomy. Of course she knew that the strength of the Fire Dragon Pirates was far more than that. Yeah haha, it's really being looked down upon. Enel looked a little unhappy. Then, let's show you what real despair is. Chapter 444 Rolling. Really, what the hell is going on with your pirate group? Enel looks a little unhappy. There are not many enemies in the sea who can make him show such an expression. Originally, the Straw Hat Pirates absolutely did not have such strength, but it was a coincidence that there were just 2 of them on the Straw Hat boat. Electric Shock Guy. X23 US. Com updates fastest. Is it really so coincidental? Enel pressed his forehead, looking a little speechless. Usually the whole world can't find a few guys, and I met 2 at one time today. You bastard. What did you do to my partner? Before Enel could finish complaining about himself, the angry Straw Hat threw a punch at him with full of anger. Crackling. Luffy's fist was not hindered in any way. Enel watched the man's fist slammed into his head, without any intention of evading, but this time, the Straw Hat's fist didn't work, and pierced it directly. Enel's head. What? The Straw Hat looked incomprehensible. How? Also incomprehensible is the beautiful Miss Nami. I could have been hit just now. Rubber, machine gun. Since 1 punch can't hit, then 10 punches, 20 punches, 100 punches, the man in the Straw Hat has a very simple concept. However, there are barriers in the world that cannot be broken through with hard work alone. Puff 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 puff. The deep voices continued one after another, and the Straw Hat's fist was like a real machine gun. The speed was so fast that it seemed like dozens of hands were punching at the same time, and each punch gathered extremely powerful force. However, even with great power, if it can't be hit, it's meaningless. This is the situation now. The Straw Hat's fists continue one after another, but they can't cause even a little damage to Enel. It's like hitting a thunderbolt. Same as above, hit Enel's body one by one, but it can't cause any damage. Stupid. Enel smiled and said, "Do you think you can defeat me by restraining me? It's too naive. If elementalization is useless to you, you just need to predict your attack and then move your body. It's not a big deal. Things." Quote. What? Nicole Robin is pale, although Enel said it was an understatement, but how could such a thing be easily done? Anticipating all the attacks and then transferring the body instantly, this kind of thing is really amazing. Well, I don't blame you. After all, you are the pirates in the first half. Enel spread his hands. It's normal not to know about hockey. Hockey. Nami blinked. Well, it doesn't matter if you don't know, I'll show you now. Enel smiled, anticipated attack, you could call it the observation hockey of the mind's eye, and then. Enel raised his right hand, black hockey covering it, armament hockey both offensive and defensive. What is that? Pet Ship Doctor, Mr. Chopper, looked bewildered. That woman just said you were rubber, didn't you? Enel smiled and raised his fist. It's no wonder, Paramesha rubber fruit ability, can completely resist the ability of electric shock, hee, and because of the rubber, I'm afraid ordinary blunt weapon attacks are useless to you, right? What are you trying to say? Asshole. Luffy was panting. I mean, come and try my fist now. Scoff. An instant, before Enel finished speaking, the person flashed in front of the Straw Hat. What? Straw Hat's pupils shrank, completely unaware of the man's movement. Grit your teeth. Enel smiled, punching the Straw Hat's head hard. Ah! With a scream, the man was blasted out completely irresistibly, and crashed into a house heavily. What? Luffy-kun. Brook couldn't help turning his head, and when he came to his senses, Luffy had been knocked out by Enel. Really, how much you look down on Uncle Ben. Enel doesn't have much thought of playing anymore. Although he was very interested at the beginning, when he really started to play with these guys, he would only feel quite boring. These guys are really weak. Even if it is, how dare you be distracted when facing him? Enel appeared behind Brook in an instant. No. If Brook had eyes, he'd be staring at him. Touch. Gala. Of course, Enel wouldn't show mercy just because the other party was a strange creature that was just a skeleton. Hockey's long legs were wrapped around Hockey's long legs, and the air was pulled at Brook's waist. Without any skin and muscle barriers, Enel's attack directly landed on Brook's. On the spine, the sour voice is endless. Whoosh. The skeleton directly followed in the footsteps of his captain, flew into a certain house, and lost his movement. Luffy, Brook. Dr. Chopper was worried. Why do you do such a thing? Nami, who couldn't hold back the tears in her eyes, really asked, it's clear that we are not enemies. Yeah, it's really naive and heartbreaking, miss. Enel poked out his ears and replied, is it enough that we are both pirates? Okay, I'm not in the mood to play anymore, how is it? Do you still want to play? Don't, stop being arrogant. The trembling man stood in front of his partner. Master Usopp is the strongest man in the Straw Hat Pirates. My 80 million men are right behind. Usopp. The tearful Dr. Chopper hid behind his not majestic companion, leaking his lower body. Hey, bastard, why don't you run? Lord Usopp's 80 million subordinates are coming. Huh, does that mean you don't have to fight? Enel smiled and completely ignored Usopp and Chopper. These two guys were too weak and pitiful. That's good, for the sake of the chef, I don't want to kill it either. You guys, the guys just now were okay and their strengths were decent, but you guys are not good enough, I'm afraid of overexerting. Hey, you, woman. Enel stretched out his hand and pointed at the brunette opposite. It's Nicole Robin, isn't it? Nicole Robin looked a little surprised. Follow me. Enel smiled. My captain wants to meet you. Nicole Robin was about to say something. Don't refuse, the captain's request does not allow you to refuse. Electric arcs flickered on Enel's body. If you dare to say no, I'll just beat you to death and bring you back. Robin. Miss Nami looked at the black-haired woman beside her in disbelief, as the target Robin. Good. Nodding hesitantly, Nicole Robin's face turned pale. Very good. Enel nodded. That's good, you cooperate with me, of course I don't mind giving you a little convenience, the Straw Hat Pirates. Just let you go. The Fire Dragon Pirates. Enel won an overwhelming victory against the Straw Hat Pirates without a doubt. Say it again, the rules for adding updates, the rewards are added, every 100 monthly tickets, 2,500 recommended updates, and 40 monthly tickets are added, everyone votes. Chapter 445 Nicole Robin _ Although it is a stone building, the thick walls block the unobstructed light on Sky Island, but the inside of the house is surprisingly not dark. On the one hand, there are many windows on the thick walls. So amazed at Nicole Robin's woman. This is. She stared at the softly glowing light bulbs on the ceiling. What? Enel, who was walking in front of her, turned around impatiently and said casually, What? Haven't you seen this before? It's just an electric light. Lights. A woman has never seen such a thing. I have to say that the technology tree of this world is very crooked. On the one hand, there are various black technologies, intelligent robots, artificial devil fruits, human body modification surgery, devil fruit enchanting technology, bloodline factor technology, and the like, technology that can scare people to death. However, on the other hand, in terms of basic technologies related to people's livelihood, this sea is still at the point of sailing in warships, where the sun rises and the sunset rests. I have to say that this is really a very magical thing, or, is some invisible big hand deliberately suppressing the progress of science and technology? This group of people, so strange, maybe. Nicole Robin thought the world would change because of them. Let's go. Enel turned his head and left. The captain is still waiting for you. His temper is not good. He has always been the only one who makes others wait, and no one dares to make him wait for a long time. Although I don't know why the captain is looking for you, it must not be the reason for him to wait for you. Yahaha. Enel smiled. Of course, you can keep dawdling if you want to die. Let's go. Nicole Robin didn't look panicked. She nodded calmly and motioned for Enel to lead the way. Cut. Enel looked a little unhappy, but also led the way honestly. This woman was the guy Vlad was looking for. Before Vlad made a decision, he was not someone he could handle. It's here, it's here. It didn't take long for Enel to stop in front of a staircase. The building area belonging to the Fire Dragon Pirates is not large, at least as a base camp of a Shichibukai-level force, it looks very shabby. Go up. Enel pointed to the stairs. The captain is waiting for you up there, be honest. Thank you, Mr. Enel. Named Nicole Robin said thank you lightly, not at all aware that she was kidnapped to the enemy's lair. Then, she took the first step. Although her face is calm, it does not mean that her heart is calm. The woman named Nicole Robin has been wandering on the sea alone for too long, so long that she has forgotten what she used to be like. This woman, she has been wrapped up in lies and betrayal, but even if she is like this, she doesn't want to die. Before she understands the truth of the world, she definitely doesn't want to die. This woman is O'Hara's undead. It's finally here. As soon as she stepped on the last step, she heard such a voice, not as impatient as Enel said, but rather looking forward. Walking out of the stairwell, there is a vast space. This is the top of the shrine, Vlad's exclusive lunch break space. Umbrella, and the deck chair below, and a chair next to it. It really makes me wait. From the recliner came the voice, "Hello, Devil's Son, Nicole Robin." Hearing Vlad's name, Robin's beautiful face turned pale for a moment. Son of the Devil, this title brought her the heaviest past, and it was really a despairing past. "Hello." Robin stepped forward, and finally saw the man lying on the reclining chair, with a naked upper body and a pair of floral shorts on his lower body, his eyes closed, and he was dozing off. "Dragon, Mr. Vlad." "Well, sit down." Vlad nodded and said softly. Nicole Robin, who did not resist, was very submissive and sat on the chair next to Vlad. Vlad opened his eyes, sat up halfway, and put his head on his hands, in a very angry posture. This was the first time Vlad saw this woman, the first time he saw this woman in reality. "Well, it's so beautiful." Vlad smiled and said bluntly, "This man is very faithful to his own feelings, what he likes is what he likes, and what he hates is what he hates." "Ah." Nicole Robin froze for a moment, not expecting Vlad's first words to be like this. "Thank you, Mr. Vlad." "Thank you. Hey, just verbal thanks can't satisfy me." Vlad's mouth twitched and said so. "What?" Nicole Robin is a little confused. What does this man mean? Ordinary people should all understand that the so-called thank you is just a courtesy. Would anyone really take such a thank you seriously? Nicole Robin, ooh ha ha. Vlad sat up straight. He was really happy. "I've been waiting for you for a long time, really, it makes me wait." "What?" Nicole Robin looked a little surprised. "Mr. Vlad, what's the matter with me?" "Hey, what else can happen?" Vlad leaned closer, showing 2 rows of big white teeth. "Is it still for your beautiful face or sexy body?" Hee tilde. Robin covered his mouth and smiled. "If it's a man like Mr. Vlad, maybe I can try it." "Don't think too much, woman." Vlad's face froze, and he stretched out his palm to express his rejection. "I'm not interested in you. What I'm interested in is your knowledge." Quote. Nicole Robin's eyes widened suddenly, and a visible surprise appeared on her face. "I'll just say it straight." Vlad said to himself, "Do you mind? Of course I have only one purpose in looking for you, Nicole Robin. It's nothing else in you that deserves my attention, but your knowledge. You understand. All I want is the knowledge that led you to be hunted down by the government, that's all." "What?" Robin smiled with a bitter look. "Isn't that the same as a crocodile?" "Crocodile." Vlad was very disdainful. "Don't compare me to that fool. That guy is hiding in prison now. I'm afraid that when he thinks of his decades of past, he will want to grab the ground with his head and kill him, right? It's really stupid. No, I'm not the same as him. I don't care much about ancient weapons. What I want. Just your knowledge. I just want to get the key to Laugh Tale." Vlad smiled. "Don't reject me, Nicole Robin. I don't want to use the means of coercion on you. Isn't it good to keep your beautiful body? There's no need to break your hands and feet. Right?" At this time, outside the Sky Island, on the Bye-Bye Sea, which is 10,000 meters above the sea, a pirate ship gradually drifted away. "Me." With some difficulty, he opened his eyes, hesitating in every corner of his body, and the pain could not be suppressed at all. "Sanji-kun." Then I heard the girl's voice crying with suspicion. "Nami-san." His throat was like being slashed by a knife, and his voice was hoarse. "Yeah, did you finally wake up?" After that, I heard such a voice that I thought I would never hear it in my whole life. Really, I didn't expect to meet again in such a place. Sanji. Chapter 446 The Straw Hat Strikes Back. That's it. The man who was still slightly charred leaned on the side of the boat, lit a cigarette, and looked melancholy. "Has Miss Robin been taken away?" "Well." The woman sitting on the deck holding her knees buried her head in her arms, her weak shoulders shrugged. "The man said that the dragon was waiting for Robin, so he took Robin away." Cut. The captain with the straw hat and the swordsman holding the sword in his arms were the ones who woke up earlier than the cook. The green-haired man gritted his teeth, and his tone was full of unwillingness. is it a result of being let go? Well. Slumped on the deck, Longnose said, that man said he didn't want to kill us. Speaking of which, where is this place? Sanji looked up and looked around, and all he could see was a white sea of clouds. I don't know. The little ship doctor said, the guy told me not to go back to Sky Island, so he let us go. We've been floating in the bye-bye sea for most of the day. Don't be stupid. At this time, such a voice suddenly came, although that man didn't want to kill you directly, but that's because you were too weak. He didn't want to do it himself and exiled you to the bye-bye sea. In Sky Island, this kind of criminal law is called liu. Yun Juxing, if you continue to drift, you will only drift endlessly in this sea of clouds, and finally float to the edge of the sea of clouds, turning into garbage and falling into the blue sea. Quote. Sanji's father, can you point us back to Sky Island? The Straw Hat, who had been sitting on the deck silent for a while, suddenly spoke up. Hey, of course you can. The speaker was a phone bug, which was held in his hand by a strangely shaped creature that looked like a monkey. The difference from ordinary monkeys was that this monkey had 4 hands. The monkey that came out shocked the Straw Hat gang, but what shocked them even more was later. The guy on the phone was actually Sanji's father. That's my purpose. The man over the phone, Vinsmoke Judge, said with a smile, you are the opportunity I've been waiting for a long time. Of course I'll fully cooperate with you. Thank you, Uncle Curly Eyebrows. Straw Hat laughed. Do you want to go back? Nami raised her head, wet tears on her face. Ah. The Straw Hat stood up and looked towards the distant sea. We're going to pick up our partner. Nami. Luffy turned his head and looked at his partner he absolutely trusted. Help me. Well, of course. The woman stood up, rubbed her arms on her face, and immediately smiled brightly. I will always show the Mary the right way. This time is different from all the opponents we have faced before. The Straw Hat looked around. His tone was a rare low. The opponent is a guy that we can't defeat. It's natural that there are such monsters in the sea, but this time, we must fight against them. Robin, a partner I recognize, our partner. We must go and bring her back. The Straw Hat Pirates. Target, Sky Island. Let's go. With the captain's shout, all the people on the ship smiled at the same time. Even the invincible enemy was the same, and they had to bring their comrades back. What the hell is going on? Sanji leaned on the side of the boat, holding a phone bug with a gloomy expression on his face. Why is it related to you? Hey, it's not about me. Judge on the phone bug was obviously laughing, but he seemed to be roaring angrily. Instead, I have to fight to the death. Sanji, the Vinsmokes. Dash 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 dash. That's. Under Judge's guidance, soon, an island appeared in front of the Going Merry. It was not the Angel Island where the Straw Hat Pirates landed before, but another island, an island composed of soil, rocks and trees. Island. Go along the river. Phone Bug said, at this point, the last safe route has ended, and there is no turning back. It's okay. Straw Hat smiled, just what I want. Then go along the river. You can go straight to the shrine, hee hee. Judge smiled with some schadenfreude and thought, of course, as long as you can pass the first line of defense composed of the Dragon Fang Corps, then you will be able to meet the second line of defense composed of the God's Guard. If you are lucky enough to be able to, if you break through this line of defense, then you can face the Fire Dragon Pirates face to face. Hee hee hee. Putting his hand on the straw hat above his head, the man smiled. Isn't that very simple? Then, I wish you good luck. Hee hee, come on, boy, I bet all my hopes on you. Work hard and make a scene for me. I will do my best to help you. Dash 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 dash. Vlad raised his eyebrows. What are you talking about? God. Sitting next to him, Nicole Robin, who had more than a dozen hands and didn't know what to write, was equally astonished, her face full of surprise and disbelief. It seems like this has never happened before. Now is the second day after Enel brought Nico Robin back. Under Vlad's friendly persuasion, the woman finally gave in, and honestly under Vlad's orders the knowledge of words is written down. It was at this time that a lightning bolt slammed in front of Vlad, and Enel appeared in front of Vlad again, and brought a very interesting news. Really, do you want me to repeat it every time? Enel twitched the corners of his mouth. Captain, I said, the Straw Hat gang that I kicked out of Sky Island is back. Hey, that's it. Vlad smiled. Of course he'll be back. Those guys, they're buddies. Looking at the woman beside him, Vlad smiled. Isn't he still here with us? Of course he will come back. Huh, are you kidding, Captain? Enel couldn't believe it. Are they fools? The gap between us and them is already obvious, right? Will they come back for this woman? Nicole Robin's body shuddered, something she had never encountered before. Maybe it's really a fool. Vlad said softly, but, it is undeniable that such fools really exist. Cut, that's true. Enel looked very upset. Don't you take my threat seriously. I'll kill them. No, just let them have a good time. Vlad waved his hand and smiled. I want to see what they can do. Chapter 447 Dragon Tooth Soldiers and Divine Soldiers. When a heavy sword slashed down, and the white figure flew back like a rag doll, hitting a tree heavily. Che, the strength is really not weak. The green-haired swordsman had an excited smile on his face, and, this number. In front of him, there are layers of white silhouettes. How many? Zoro smiled, but don't even think about going there. Our ship is not a place where you can be arrogant. What the hell is going on with these guys? The black figure jumped vigorously into the air. The slender thighs were pulled out like a whip, and bombarded a white shadow. The white shadow did not respond at all, but, the shocking thing happened like this, but the powerful kick had no effect at all. It was a very horrifying scene. The curly-brow chef's steel whip-like leg directly pulled away the belly of the white shadow, but it didn't cause any damage. It was like a cloud and mist. Sanji's blow was like a kick in the cloud and mist. The same as above, he was completely unable to exert his strength, and his enemy, the robot's stomach, spread out on its own. The enemy. Sanji's opponent, the guardian of the Sky Island, the first line of defense to the shrine located at the highest point of the Island of God, a dragon-tooth soldier of the Dragon-Tooth Corps, with red light flashing in his eyes, and his spear already in his hand. He stabbed Sanji in the air. A race. Cut. The body twisted suddenly, and the other leg tore the air with the sound of hunting wind, and slammed heavily on the spear of the dragon-tooth soldier. This time, the enemy was finally blasted out. What the hell is going on with these guys? The slingshot in his hand was not the long-nosed man who shot the gunpowder star, and his face was covered in cold sweat. It can't be hit at all. As he said, his attack had absolutely no effect on the swarming Dragon Fang soldiers, just like hitting the clouds and mist. Although it could easily penetrate their bodies, it did not cause any damage. Zoro, Sanji, Usopp. Get down. Behind several people, came this kind of voice, rubber rubber, storm. The few people in front of them avoided it tacitly, and then the stormy fists were already slammed from the deck towards the dragon-tooth soldiers who were constantly rushing towards the shore. Puff puff puff. The fists invisible to the naked eye kept blasting behind the back, towards the dragon-tooth soldiers who were pounced on by the Going Merry. One by one big holes bloomed on the dragon-tooth soldiers. What the hell is going on here? What the hell are these guys? Sanji gritted his teeth, cold sweat on his forehead. Are they all Logia-capable people? It didn't take long for the voyage to enter the Island of God. Countless white monsters rushed out of the forest. The red eyes were very infiltrating. There was no confirmation at all, and the attack had already arrived, which is of course. The only people without wings on Sky Island are the Fire Dragon Pirates. They are all authorized. Of course, the wingless guys in the straw hat are the enemy. You don't need to think about it at all. It's just that these guys are like soldiers. It's too scary, isn't it? Of course not. There was a voice like this from the phone worm on the side, where do those who hide from abilities come from, let alone those who are capable of logia? These things are scientific creations. In fact, they are just robots, but they use the special iron of Sky Island. The cloud gives them the ability to freely transform their bodies. But they are still robots in essence, and they can be defeated as long as they destroy the core or wiring in their bodies. Quote. Bang. Just when he said that, the red light in the eyes of several robots in the fist storm suddenly went out, and they were blasted out heavily, falling to the ground and never moving again. Success. Retracting his fist, Straw Hat's face also looked a little surprised. Since it can be hit, then there is nothing to say. The green-haired swordsman bit his sword in his mouth and held two swords in his hands, posing, flying slash, this is 108 Troubles Phoenix. With a sharp swing of the knife in his hand, hundreds of slashes have already tore through the air and burst out of the air, pointing directly at the dragon-tooth soldiers who had already rushed towards this side. Chi-chi-chi-chi. When the several robots in the head broke into two parts in an instant, you could easily see the broken and sparkling circuit inside the white body. Even if the body could still be reunited, the circuit had been damaged, and of course it could not move. Yes, the dragon teeth soldiers are very strong. As a miscellaneous army of the fire dragon pirates, they are far from being able to compete with ordinary guys. However, guys like the green-haired swordsman are not ordinary people. Yo ho 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 ho. Skeleton smiled like this, then I'll come to. Whoosh. A gust of wind suddenly blew across the deck. Brook had his back to the dragon fang core, and there was still a small portion of the long sword inside the cane exposed. Crack. Gently pushing the long sword back into the scabbard, the skeleton said in a low voice. Three nose songs, Nox slash. Ding 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 ding. A series of crisp voices came from behind him, and the body of Long Yabing who was pounced at him couldn't help but suffocate, and then a race. There was no damage, and a spear was thrown towards him. Why? Some were embarrassed to avoid the spear, but fortunately, his body was very slender. When the deck was pierced with holes, he was unharmed. Why can't they hurt them? Hey, this is of course, although the strength is limited, although the strength is the same, but the defense is not a joke. Judge seemed to gloat over the misfortune. I've already said that their bodies are made of cloud iron. They have the special flow of clouds, but also the indestructibility of iron. They don't have the sword skill of cutting iron, so don't even think about cutting them. Now. Why is this? Brook's unwilling growl resounded through the sky. He he he. Captain Straw Hat giggled, and continued to smash his fists out. Although he couldn't cut iron, it was quite easy for him to smash iron blocks or something. Hee hee, Nami, speed up, the enemy is blocked by us. Under the pursuit of the dragon-tooth soldiers constantly pouring out from the shore, the small boat gradually drifted away. Dash 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 dash. I don't know how long it took. When the surrounding forest gradually became extremely dense, the dragon-tooth soldiers who unknowingly pursued disappeared. Woo, who, what's the matter? The curly-browed cook gasped heavily, kicking steel or something, which was really exhausting. Didn't catch up. Are there not enough troops? Woo, who, how is that possible? Also gasping for breath was a three-sword-style swordsman. Flying slashes capable of slashing iron were not something he could use casually. The number is terrifying. Hey, what is that? The captain's whimpering sound brought them back to their senses. Then, they also saw something that surprised their captain. In the depths of the forest, huge vines rose into the sky, and they didn't know how high they spread. It's there. Judge on the phone worm said, Jingu, I didn't expect you guys to be able to rush to a place like this, as long as you're rushing through a line of defense. It was at this time that the river came to an end, and there was no more place to sail. Get off the boat. Straw Hat said, go and get Robin back. What? Suddenly, such a voice came. I thought something happened, the movement was so big, it turned out. It's an intruder. Is it finally here? Judge hung up the phone quietly. Spiritual soldiers. Chapter 448 Chimera. Captain, is it okay? On the top of the shrine, Vlad was lying on the reclining chair, while Enel sat watching Nico Robin's diligent copying, and asked casually, although Wepa is weak, it is not something that those guys can resist. Opponent. It's okay. Vlad replied without opening his eyes, someone help them, and, if you can't even get past the Wepa level, just die tilde it doesn't matter. Yeah haha. Enel laughed, what a ruthless captain. Quote. Involuntarily, the pen paused, and Nicole Robin hesitated with her back to the two of them. Ha, isn't it of course? Vlad said solemnly, isn't it already decided the moment you decide to go to sea? Why did you go to sea shamelessly without the consciousness of dying at sea? If that's all those guys are like, then die here. Stop being ashamed. Dash 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 dash. What? The green algae head turned his head sharply, and then he saw that at some point, on a big tree on the shore, a man was already standing on it, with a circle of tattoos on his left eye, and a very serious expression on his face. Indifferent, his eyes were extremely cold, with a rocket launcher on his back, he looked down at the Straw Hat gang who had just landed on the shore. Ah! The little reindeer suddenly screamed, appear. So whoosh whoosh. Then, a series of black shadows jumped out of the forest behind the man. There were nearly 100 people. They surrounded the Straw Hat pirates in the blink of an eye, but they didn't come forward. Same. That's it. Curly Eyebrows slowly exhaled a smoke ring, with a very solemn expression, second line of defense. The past guardian of Sky Island, the current Jingu Guard, the God's Guard. This guy. Green Zaudo looked at the man who appeared first, and clenched the sword in his hand, it's not easy. The enemy. Straw Hat's expression was serious, ready to fight. Hey, wait for me. Another man fell on the side of the man who first appeared before. I finally have an enemy, but I want to enjoy it by myself. Wepa, you are too cautious. Don't think too much. The man who appeared first, the great warrior of Sandia, replied, I will never allow anyone who threatens this country to appear. He turned his head and looked at the Straw Hats below. I will give to all the guys who will make this peaceful country uneasy. A race. You. The reindeer retracted behind the captain, his round eyes were watery, and he looked quite frightened. Intruder, wake up. Wepa's face was cold, and he gently slid the rocket launcher on his back into his hand. His rocket launcher was no longer a weapon of the Shinbing team. It has been transformed. The most obvious change is in appearance. The position is more slender, but the front position is thicker, it looks like a baseball bat. I, the commander of the God's Guard, will deal with you here. Hey, are you really going to do it alone? The person who came later, the deputy commander of the God's Guard, the animal husband of the sky, and the former priest Om looked very upset. Are you kidding me? Wepa, if you want to protect the peace of Sky Island, I can also contribute. Ah. Ha. Laughing, like a devil-like man, Wepa really laughed, with a playful look. Who told me that I am your superior? Hello. Om slapped his boss on the shoulder. Okay, Deputy God Soldier, give me a raid. Wepa whispered, I'm going to deal with the invaders. Cut. Om was very upset. Then, Wepa slid down and grabbed the end of the bat-like bazooka, really like a large baseball bat. Come on. Come on. The green algae head's eyes flashed. Wepa has come to him, like a phantom, the speed is so fast that people can't react. So fast. This was the only thought that Zoro had at this time, and then, carrying the whistling wind, it was originally a rocket launcher, but because of its huge size and the fact that it is quite easy to use, Wepa likes to use his weapon as a mace. Use. Bang. What? The speed of Wepa's attack was too fast, and the speed of swinging the bat was even faster. The green algae head only had time to lift the three knives to block in front of him, and was blasted out heavily. The gap between the weapons was too great. It's big, and it's not an order of magnitude at all in terms of weight. Whoosh! Zoro flew back directly, crashing heavily into the nearby forest. Damn! After knocking Zoro away, Wappa didn't have time to retract the rocket launcher, and the enemy's attack had already come. No matter how fast Wappa was, after all, there were more people on the other side. The black leather shoes that smashed the rocks and kicked the steel were already roaring towards Wappa with the whistling sound of the wind. It's really menacing. Wappa Vivi leaned back and lifted his hand lightly, and the middle of the hard rocket launcher was already in front of Sanji. I have to say, observation hockey is really a weapon to abuse vegetables. As long as the speed difference between the two sides not too big, users of observation hockey will undoubtedly have an overwhelming advantage. Even though it was a blow that could easily shatter rocks and bend steel, it was still not enough to look at in front of Armament Hockey's rocket launcher, and it easily blocked Sanji's attack. Hey! Wappa's eyes shrank, the sharp sword tip was already in front of his eyes, and it almost stabbed into his mouth, but the man was not afraid at all. He opened his mouth. Ding! Teeth are the hardest part of the human body, so what will happen if hockey is added? What? Brook was a little confused. This guy actually caught his own blow with his mouth. Brook had been caught. It didn't mean it was over. The attack of the Straw Hats continued. Rubber rubber. The Straw Hat has jumped high into the air, and the legs are stretched up high. Tomahawk. Whoosh. With its strong elasticity, the Straw Hat's blow is enough to easily shatter the ground. Really? Wappa's observation hockey is always paying attention to the surrounding wind and grass, and he can even think with extra leeway. Some look down on me. Then let you see it. The power that Lord Vlad bestowed on me. Woo. A gust of wind picked up. Ah. Hey. What is this? The Straw Hats were all blasted out. Dash 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 dash. Hold on a little longer. Straw Hat. The distance, Jingu. Judge cautiously opened the petri dish in front of him, looked at the sleeping monster inside, and said, "Aid is coming soon. Hold on to me. The strongest reinforcements. Chimera. Coming soon. Dash 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 dash. Thank you brothers for your monthly pass. Let's start the 4th shift." In addition, the 10,000 reward update is too unfriendly, and now it has been changed to a cumulative 10,000 reward update, which has accumulated 400 from yesterday to now. How supportive everyone. Chapter 449 Intrude. Captain, is it okay? Still on top of the shrine, or Enel asking, the judge. It's really ironic, as long as Enel is still in the shrine, all Judge's actions are like stealing things from under the camera. The lion is clear at a glance. Enel can easily monitor the whole island, and everyone's voice can't be hidden from him. X23 US. Com updates fastest. It's okay. Vlad smiled and said softly, I just want to see what kind of power that guy Paso has worked so hard to make for so long. Really, just be happy. Enel nodded, then asked, so, Judge, what to do with him? Kill him. Kill him. Vlad smiled, isn't that a pity? Wouldn't it be a waste to just kill an excellent researcher like Mr. Judge? What? Enel was a little surprised, are you going to let that guy go? Well, I said it before. Vlad said, I'll forgive him once, but can't break my promise. Really? Enel complained, isn't this causing us trouble? Haha, just trouble you a little. Because of my willfulness. Fred chuckled. Who made you the captain? Enel shrugged. Of course. Vlad was lying on the reclining chair, looking up at the blue sky. I have to give him some punishment, right? After all, I will only forgive him once, and there will be no second time, until I get someone who can replace Mr. Judge. I don't want him to die so early, so just don't die, right? That's it. Enel laughed, that's right. Dash 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 dash. Ah, ah, it hurts, it hurts. Covering his feet, the straw hat got up from the ground. The facial features on his face were wrinkled, looking very painful. What is that? It was really painful, just like being hit by that thunderbolt man's fist before, and I fainted immediately, but the pain can be clearly felt even if I woke up. What? Sanji's cigarette butt in his mouth fell to the ground unconsciously, his eyes widened and he looked surprised. In the end, Nami, who was hiding behind, covered her mouth. What the hell is it? That guy. Usopp, who naturally stood in front of Nami, was very surprised. Is he also an ability person? In that form, is its own? No, Usopp. Dr. Chopper, who has turned into a human form, said solemnly, remember that guy from Alabasta. What? Lightning flashed in Usopp's mind, so to speak. Not far from the Straw Hat Pirates, Wappa stood leisurely, holding the end of the baseball bat bazooka in his hand. It seemed that nothing had changed, which was of course, because what changed was really caused by him. The rocket launcher held in his hand, the part of the rocket launcher held by him did not change, but the further forward, the more obvious the change. The delicate scales grew out, and then gradually covered the whole body, gradually gaining life. The slender and huge body spread out, the scales covered it, the black and white ring color spread on the body was very long, surrounded Wappa's body, and protected the man in it, and then, the huge head was in Wappa. Letters spit out above paw head. Is it a snake? Sanji stood up and shook his head. Is it a snake? Weapons. Brook was a little dumbfounded, already stunned, turned into a snake. This is... At this time, the green-haired swordsman who had been sent flying by Wappa also returned, a weapon with power. Yes, weapons with abilities. Wappa smiled lightly, and shook the hand holding the weapon lightly. As his hand swayed, Orochi, who was coiling around him, also moved. Snake fruit, see snake form. Cut, this guy. Ohm, who was still standing on the tree, muttered angrily, just want to show off his new weapon. Got it, invaders. Wappa raised his right hand and smiled, if I die too fast, I'll be very upset. Woo. A forceful flick, Orochi roared out as if he had seen a delicious guinea pig. The huge snake head was like a small mountain bag, and charged straight towards the straw hat with astonishing power. Ghost slash. The three knives were unsheathed at the same time, and three cold lights flashed, and a green algae-headed swordsman with three knives chopped towards the snake head like the most agile cheetah. Ding! Although it is a snake, its body is still filled with invisible fluctuations, and Wappa is holding Orochi's tail for this purpose. Boom! Hey! The power of Wappa's swing and Orochi's own power, even with Zoro monster-like power, was a bit unbearable, and flew back again. Hey! Wappa shook his hand, and the huge snake head instantly changed going-s direction, and rushed towards the other half's bones. First-class minced meat, quote. Boom! The chef in black kicked Orochi and made a dull sound. The body was a solid metal rocket launcher, and with Wappa's armament hockey, it was not easy for Sanji to break it. Hey! Don't forget that although Orochi is a very strong force, Wappa himself is the real main force. Just like a phantom, Wappa has appeared in front of Sanji. What? Like Sanji, the whip-like leg slammed directly into Sanji's chest. Poof! Blood spurted out of the man's mouth in an instant. Like a football, Sanji fell rapidly, blasting a big hole on the ground. Sanji! The straw hat shouted loudly. At the same time, the huge snake head approached Brook, opened its big mouth, and a strong stench came out of his mouth. Damn! Brook gritted his teeth, and he could only grit his teeth, clenched his long sword, and stabbed directly at the snake's mouth. Naive. Wappa Vivi turned sideways, dodging the straw hat's outstretched fist, and ordered, incendiary gun. There. In the snake's open mouth, a bright light suddenly appeared at the throat. Then, a surging flame shot out from its mouth. The blue flame instantly wrapped Brook. Although it looked like a snake now, it was actually a snake. It's a burning gun. Brooke. Quote. Damn. Straw Hat rushed towards this side, rubber whip. His legs stretched out sharply and swept toward Waipa like a whip. Crack. Waipa opened his left hand, and armament hockey wrapped around it, holding the Straw Hat's leg tightly. Damn. Straw Hat's face is very unwilling. Let go of Luffy. Behind Waipa, the tall figure has raised his fist, and the brave man at sea, Chopper's heavy punch has slammed into Waipa's back. Huh. A sneer, Waipa didn't even turn his head back. Huh, accompanied by the violent wind noise. The huge snake had already carried the power of wind and thunder, and slammed heavily on Chopper's body. The furry deer man was already blown away. Go out. Chopper. Quote. With such a roar, the Straw Hat whose legs were caught was simply ejected at Waipa with the help of the stretched legs. Be quiet. Waipa said in a deep voice. The hand holding Luffy's leg slammed violently, and under the powerful force, the Straw Hat suddenly lifted into the air, and then fell heavily to the ground. Ah! The Straw Hat let out a pained cry, and then... boom! Waipa fell from the sky and stepped heavily on Luffy's back. The Orochi in his right hand had turned back into a rocket launcher, and the muzzle was straight against the back of the Straw Hat. It's over. Waipa said this. His face was calm, his hand was on the trigger. Monkey D. Luffy's man, is it really going to stop his travel here? Whoosh. In the forest, a black shadow suddenly rushed out. What? This time it was Waipa's turn to be surprised, and shrank back sharply. PFF'd. Blood splattered. Chapter 450 Shrine Intrusion. Call. Some people who survived the catastrophe breathed a sigh of relief. The man named Waipa looked at the thing that suddenly appeared on the battlefield, which could only be described as something he had never seen before. X23 US. Com updates fastest. Waipa. Quote. On the tree behind, Ohm slammed under his feet and bounced lightly to Waipa's side. The expression on his face was not very good. Are you all right? It's okay. Waipa's expression was very serious. His injury was not as easy as he said. A big hole was torn in the chest. Very infiltrating. The question is, what is this thing? Waipa said in a condensed voice. The one who suddenly appeared and attacked Waipa was a strange creature that no one present had ever seen before. At least it looked like a creature. It looked like a puppy, with a grayish-black crawling on the ground. But the head is like a crocodile, and the stubby mouth seems to be grinning like a warning, and saliva flows from it. The most eye-catching thing is its legs. Compared with some petite bodies, it has 6 long legs that look very weird, with sharp claws attached to them. One of them is stained with scarlet blood. Paw blood. What? The Straw Hat raised his head in confusion, and then saw the strange creature standing beside him. What, not an enemy? Yes, this strange creature seems to be aimed at Waipa, or rather, at the people of the God's Guard. In other words, they're reinforcements. Cough cough. With blood still hanging from the corners of his mouth, the chef in black climbed up from the ground with some difficulty. His chest was in severe pain, and just breathing made him very uncomfortable. Then, he heard a phone call from a phone bug in his clothes pocket. The voice, I have to say, this little thing has a really big life, and it can still be intact after Sanji was hit so hard by Waipa. Right now, Sanji. He heard the voice of the man who was his nominal father, and looked a little anxious. This thing will help you hold back the God's Guard and seize the opportunity. Rush into the shrine. That thing. Sanji hesitated. Can you really hold back that monster? Waipa's strength left a deep impression on this curly-browed chef, but the most powerful opponent he had ever encountered was not something he could deal with now. Don't worry. Judge's voice was very proud. This guy is my favorite work. It's definitely not a problem to hold the God's Guard. The most proud. The third son of the Vinsmoke family suddenly thought so. Is he more proud than a few brothers? Okay. Sanji nodded. Now there is no other choice. If you don't want to destroy the group, you can only follow Judge's command. Sanji, I'm helping you now, but I want you to do me a favor later. Judge said that, his voice a little eager. Yeah. This is also of course, it is normal to help others after receiving the favor of others. Luffy. Sanji shouted, run now. Oh. The Straw Hat was giggling, and he couldn't tell that he was beaten before. Everyone, run away. Ha ha ha. With such a playful laugh, the Straw Hat gang gathered together and were about to dash in the direction of the shrine. Don't think about it. There was frost on Waipa's face. If they watched these guys attack the shrine, wouldn't they be too derelict for the guards of the gods? What's the point of existence? At the same time, the guards of the gods, who were originally surrounded by their own divine soldiers, also moved. As the divine soldiers guarding the shrine, if the enemy were to drive straight in, what else would there be to say? Whoosh! The air seemed to be blasted, and the petite black shadow flashed in front of him in an instant. Damn! Waipa's face was horrified. This speed is too amazing. In a hurry, he only had time to lift the snake cannon in his hand, wrap Haki and meet the creature, which is Passo and Judge. The brainchild of something Vlad named a chimera. Crack! The body is petite, so it has unimaginable agility. When it was about to hit Waipa's snake cannon, Chimera's front limbs pressed lightly on the snake cannon. The sharp claws suddenly stretched out and stroked Waipa's shoulder lightly as it passed over Waipa's body. PFF'd. Blood spurted out, but Waipa didn't have time to cry in pain. He turned his head sharply. The monster had already rushed towards his subordinates. He hurriedly said loudly, "Get out of the way, get out of the way!" Exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark. Let them pass. Quote. He now knows that the monster's purpose is to let the Straw Hat pirates pass, and everyone who blocks them will be attacked by it. He knows the strength of his subordinates very well, and they will not be the opponent of the monster at all. It's better to let the Straw Hats go over fearlessly. After all, the Straw Hats, who are far inferior to themselves, certainly won't affect those adults. Wepper. Ohm looked a little surprised. Disperse. Let them pass. Waipa said loudly, our enemies are not them anymore. His eyes stared sternly. As the guards of the gods dispersed, the Straw Hats passed by and stopped. He stretched out his long tongue and licked it on his paws. He looked back at the monster that came over, slowly with a sigh of relief. Those guys don't matter. Now, this monster is our worst enemy. All members, stand back and be alert. Waipa took out a small bottle from his pocket, and now of course he has to go all out. Captain and above take medicine. Join the battle. Kill him. Oh. Hoo. He was gasping for breath, and the Straw Hat stopped. In front of him, there was a huge vine rising into the sky, and he didn't know how far into the sky. It's over here. Behind him, the green-haired swordsman said, the shrine where the fire dragon pirates are located. Get ready. Slowly lighting a cigarette, the eyebrow-curling chef said softly, the previous opponents were all making small fights, and the next one will be the hardest battle. Yeah. With some difficulty swallowing a mouthful of saliva, the long-nosed man nodded. Everyone. The Straw Hat hand pressed the straw hat above his head, and said solemnly, the opponent may be the guy we can't defeat. Our goal is to bring back Robin. If there is a fight, as long as we can survive. It doesn't matter if you surrender. Luffy. The orange-haired woman in the back involuntarily widened her eyes. She never thought that one day Luffy would say such a thing. Then go. Make sure to bring Robin back. Chapter 451 Goddess of Saints. Hey, that's really weird. It was still on the top floor, and the characters were still Vlad and Enel. Vlad was still lying on the reclining chair, enjoying the rare holiday leisurely. Nicole Robin honestly continued her copying work on the side. Listen to all kinds of inside information. Captain. Enel looks a little surprised. He has been monitoring the movements of the Straw Hats all the time. It is because of this that he is very puzzled. What is going on? What the hell is going on? He asked. That chimera is Passo's creation, but why is Judge able to control it? That's too weird, isn't it? What's so strange about that? Vlad said leisurely. That guy Judge, he still has a lot of things. Chimera, he participated in the cultivation, and it's not a big thing to be able to do small things under the eyes of that bastard in Paso, right? Cut. Enel looked unhappy. That guy is such a nasty guy. Well. Vlad smiled, so I said I'll teach him a lesson later. Since it's already our dog, don't show your fangs to the master. So, Captain. Enel laughed suddenly, seeming to notice something that made him happy. How do those guys deal with it? Yeah, haha, it's really interesting that such weak guys actually broke through the defense line of the God's Guard. Enel laughed, but in the next instant, the man's face showed an expression that could become Morihan. So, don't you look too weak at the sight of the idiots of the God's Guard. Our faces are all lost by them. Captain. Just kill them. Don't be silly, God. Vlad Vivi opened his eyes and said solemnly, the guards of God are our loyal subordinates, and they did nothing wrong this time. Perhaps. Enel wasn't very happy. He was the boatman on the ship, so anyone who would get in the way of the ship was his enemy. So, Captain, what about the straw hats? Enel said, they come under the shrine. Do you want me to deal with them? Woo ha ha, no, of course not. Vlad waved his hand, looking very happy. Isn't this fun? In order to save the kidnapped partner, a group of people risked their lives to go to the enemy's base camp, finally defeated the enemy, and brought back their partner with a smile in tears and blood. Isn't this script great? Yeah haha. Enel laughed. So were the villains. Isn't it? Vlad asked back. No matter how you look at it, their actions should be considered villains, right? People came to Sky Island, robbed the other party's partner without saying a word, and beat the other party hard. No matter how you look at it, this kind of behavior is a villain, right? So what, Captain? Enel suddenly became interested. What are your plans? Hey, isn't that what the story says? Vlad said with a smile, a group of people who came to rescue their partners will meet their faithful opponents in the enemy's base camp. In the end, they will defeat the enemy with an attack full of fetters and love. Is that so? Yahaha. Enel laughed loudly. I see, I'll call someone. After spending so much time at Sky Island, they must want to move a bit too. Crack. Enel is a resolute person, and instantly disappeared into the top of the shrine in a flash of lightning. Woo ha ha, what a dependable guy. Vlad smiled, then turned his head. So, Nicole Robin, do you have anything to say? Your friends are willing to risk their lives even in the face of a formidable enemy that they absolutely cannot resist. To take you back, hey. It's really touching. Hey, this kind of feeling. Do you want to cry? Nicole Robin, a woman like you has also met a partner at the sea who can entrust her life and death. Do you want to cry? Happy tears can still stop live. Quote. There was no answer. The woman with her back to Vlad bit her lip and said nothing, but Vivi's hand was shaking as she was writing, and the graceful font was distorted for a moment. Wow, haha, it's really interesting. Vlad put his hands behind his head and narrowed his eyes leisurely. Think about it, isn't this the goddess, Saint Seiya? Hey, won't you suddenly take out a pot and drop me in the end? At this time, under the shrine, above the huge vines, a group of people in straw hats are running fast on the huge vines. Although they have reached the shrine, they still have a long way to go. In order to recover their partners, people who bet everything, this is really a romantic story. In such a romantic story, of course, there must be villains. Some deep sounds filled the air, and a translucent spherical space extended from the top of the vines, instantly shrouding the straw hats in it. Be careful. Sanji said loudly in an instant. No need for his reminder. The green-haired swordsman has drawn his sword, and the straw hat has stepped forward to block the crowd. Scoff. Then, in the next instant, a certain man appeared in front of them. Come out, it's here. Mr. Longnose was already stunned. This guy. The three swordsman's expression is very solemn, and he has no idea how he appeared. Are you capable again? Sanji smiled wryly. The incomparably rare ability in the Four Seas is such a flood on the Great Route. First time meeting. Person who came was the ship doctor of the Fire Dragon Pirates, a man named Trafalgar Luo. He carried a wild sword on his shoulders. With a gentle wave of his right hand, the surrounding room immediately dissipated, with a consistent expression on his face. The guy with some joking mocking smile said so. You guys are the Straw Hats, aren't you? My name is Luo, Trafalgar Luo, the ship doctor of the Dragon Pirates. Yo hoo hoo hoo. Brooke scratched his explosive head, and said with some distress, as a result, the operation was discovered before it even started. Doctor. The reindeer hiding behind Usopp stretched out his head curiously and looked at the thin-looking man on the opposite side. Your goal is to rescue that woman named Nicole Robin. Luo smiled like this. I still appreciate you a little bit after saying that. A guy who is willing to risk his life for his partner won't be a bad person, but the enemy is the enemy. Since you dare to attack us, you are ready to die in battle, right? Get out of the way. The Straw Hat hit it with a punch. What a bad temper. The Straw Hat owner. Luo Vivi tilted his head to avoid Luffy's blow. Of course, it's okay if you want me to stay out of the way. And it's okay for you to go up. Luo said so. What? Sanji was a little surprised. Leave one man. Luo raised his right index finger and smiled, just leave one person. The rest can go up. Chapter 452 Respective Opponents. What? The three swordsmen frowned, looking very surprised. Do you want me to give up my partner? The Straw Hat looked very angry. No no no. Luo raised his right hand, and a circular airflow surrounded his palm. The man smiled lightly, waved his hand gently, and the translucent space spread out instantly, covering a large area around him. This is... The Straw Hat looked left and right, looking very ignorant. I didn't mean it that way. Luo's voice came from the middle of the Straw Hat gang, and he put his hand on Mr. Longnose's shoulder leisurely, and smiled, I mean. What? The green algae head turned around in astonishment. If you don't want to, then. Luo's body disappeared again in an instant, just as the fist of the Straw Hat, the sword with the green algae head, and the foot with the curly eyebrows were about to hit him. He had returned to the original position, as if he had not moved at all, smile leisurely. It's only here that the group is destroyed. Quote. Silence. The atmosphere was incomparably silent, and a wordless weight was placed on the Straw Hats. The strength Luo displayed reminded them of their powerlessness against Enel before. Luffy, let me stay. At this time, the reindeer who had been hiding behind his partner stood up and said loudly, let me stay and be this man's opponent. Chopper. Nami covered her mouth in disbelief. All eyes were on this little reindeer. Robin is my buddy too. The reindeer, who was still trembling at first, now has firmness in his eyes. I also want to bring her back, so let me stay. I also want to do something for your partner. There must be a stronger enemy ahead. Since this person is also a doctor, I. The little reindeer didn't know what to say, but the feelings he wanted to express were obvious enough. That's it. The Straw Hat nodded and gave the reindeer a big smile. It's up to you. Chopper. Yeah. The reindeer nodded heavily. Luffy. Nami's eyes widened. Let's go, gentlemen. Luffy took the lead. Here, it's up to Chopper. But, Luffy. Miss Nami looked a little incomprehensible. Nami. Mr. Longnose spoke. He said so. His tone was very heavy. Chopper, he has made up his mind. As long as we respect him. Quote. The woman was speechless. She understood. Such a thing is of course, since it is already a partner. When the partner has made up his mind, of course, he only needs to respect him. So, the Straw Hats continued to move forward, and the Straw Hats walked past Luo with their comrades. They were not worried about the enemy's attack at all. Luo did not disappoint them, and stood on the side and let them pass. Is it Chopper? Luo looked at the little reindeer opposite, smiled, and said so. Hem. The little reindeer looked a little scared, but in the blink of an eye, it became extremely firm and nodded heavily. I am the ship doctor of the Straw Hat Pirates. I will definitely defeat you. That's it. Luo smiled. You are also a doctor. Dash 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 dash. Who? Breathing is a little short. It is huge. I don't know how high the vines spread to the sky seems to be endless. I don't know when it will run to the end. The same way, the Straw Hats don't know what their fate will be. This time the enemy faced is unprecedentedly powerful. Fortunately, although the anxiety in my heart is endless, the road under my feet is not really endless. After meeting Luo, I didn't run for long. After turning a corner, my eyes suddenly opened up. The white ground appeared in front of them, and an empty square had appeared in front of everyone. Across this huge square, on the opposite side, the stone building was the base camp of the Fire Dragon Pirates, the god of Sky Island. Palace. There was also a big white bear in an orange overalls that appeared with the square. He looked at this side blankly. When a group of Straw Hat Pirates appeared, they seemed to be taken aback. Involuntarily, he took 2 steps back. It's terrible, it's terrible, it's terrible. The big bear named Babo seemed to be spinning in circles in his eyes, and looked at the group of straw hats who were walking towards him and cringed a little. My name is Beppo, a navigator of the Fire Dragon Pirates, if. Before he could finish his words, the person on the other side spoke. Navigator. Nami stood up and said, then let me be your opponent. Want to go, Babo, who was reading his lines, was a little dumbfounded when he saw such a decisive Nami. Nami. Without the slightest pause, the straw hat continued to going, directly over the Babo who was a little scared, so he hugged his head and walked towards the shrine opposite. It's over to you. Oh. The beautiful woman took out 3 short sticks from her chest, joined them together and turned into one long stick, with a very serious expression on her face. I won't lose the duel between navigators. So the head of the Straw Hat Pirates rushed in, and the Jingu was within reach. Squeak. The heavy door was pushed open, and the melodious sound of the piano came out from the shrine. The beautiful woman was sitting in front of the piano and playing the piano. The big white dog was lying at her feet, yawning leisurely. Ah! The curly-browed chef seemed to have a heart in his eyes, and he was about to throw it out. Woo! Some feared and let out a long sigh of relief. It's so scary, so scary. This lady, so beautiful. The piano sound stopped abruptly. Serena didn't sit up from the piano, and she didn't turn her head back. She looked very gentle and elegant, but her tone was actually very harsh. You are the intruders. If you can come here, then you know the rules, right? The wicked Serena said directly, my mother is a musician of the Fire Dragon Pirates. If you want to be my opponent, stand up for yourself. Yo-ha-ho-ho, since it's a musician. Brooke stepped forward and smiled, then it's only me. I don't care anymore. Serena smiled and pointed to one side. The stairs are over there, the captain is on the top of the building, and the person you are looking for is also up there. Oh, thanks. Thank you very politely. Then after saying, I'll give it to you Brooke, and getting a response, the straw hat and the green algae head, the eyebrows are curled, and the long nose starts to walk towards the stairs. Serena didn't lie to them, the stairs were indeed over there, and it wasn't a very high one. Soon, the second floor appeared in front of them. Of course, there was the leisurely leaner who appeared in front of them. Beautiful woman breathing clouds by the window. Woo. Woman looked back at them. Let's talk first. I don't want to mess around with the captain. Right here, get rid of you. Chapter 453 The Natural Enemy. Yes, Miss Baby 5's expression is very solemn. Of course he will not forget this woman, but he was really surprised by this young lady's beautiful face at that time. Curly eyebrows. Green Zaudo was shocked. This was the first time they saw Sanji seeing a beautiful woman without being a nympho. They never thought that this guy would actually have such a side. This lady. Sanji's expression is very solemn. If BABY5 is the enemy, it's very strong. Really? The maid looked very unhappy. The captain always wants to do some pointless things, and so do those guys. Is it necessary to satisfy the captain for such unreasonable demands? Since they are enemies, why not just kill you? Where did you come from? Busy. Crackling. The electric light flickered, and in the extremely fearful eyes of the rest of the Straw Hats, Enel had appeared behind the maid along the power transmission line. Yeah, haha, baby 5, the captain is right, you really don't want to play games with us. Enel smiles like that. I'm not as busy as you are. The maid didn't look back. Well, it's up to you. Enel spread his hands. Anyway, that's what the captain asked. I can't force you if you want to disappoint him. Hey, I still have things to do, just do what you want. Wow. The man instantly turned into a lightning bolt and flew into the sky, and the direction of flying was vaguely the direction the Straw Hats had just come from. Woo. Seemingly unhappy, the maid threw the cigarette butt that fell from her mouth to the ground, stepped on her foot heavily, and then raised her head. Her delicate and beautiful face was full of impatience. Hey, you, that long nose. The maid raised her hand and pointed at Mr. Long Nose in the Straw Hats. The long nose pointed at himself, a little surprised. Ah, it's you. Maid said softly, the other 3 guys are all waiting for them, so I can only pick you, right? 4 pairs of eyes focused on Mr. Long Nose's body at the same time. Gudong. Involuntarily swallowed a mouthful of saliva and glanced at his friends. Each of these 3 men was seriously injured. They have been injured since they met Enel on Sky Island, and then rushed to the island of God and encountered Longya. The Corps was attacked, and they were attacked by the divine soldiers again. Each of them must be exhausted, right? Of course they were exhausted from the continuous high-intensity battle. You don't need to think about it to know such a thing, so. Oh, if you want to be Usopp-sama's enemy, leave it to me. The tone is very high, full of strong confidence and high spirits. Usopp. Straw Hat, there was some hesitation for the first time. Leave it to me, Luffy. Usopp smiled, leave this woman to me. Lord Usopp will never lose. Quote. Oh, got it. The Straw Hat raised his head with a bright smile on his face. I'll leave it to you. There must be no problem, right? Of course. Brave sea warrior, Usopp replied with a smile. Well, as expected of Usopp. Straw Hat smiled, let's go. Zoro, Sanji, if it's Usopp, there must be no problem. Of course. Green Algae nodded. Let's go. Curly Eyebrows took a step forward. There are still enemies waiting for us above. Seeing the group of Straw Hats disappearing at the corner of the stairs, the maid looked at the man standing in front of her in surprise. She had already exhausted her strength just by forcing herself not to tremble, and said. The 3rd floor of the Jingu Palace was no different from the second time. It was a very wide space. Then, the moment they stepped out of the stairs, the big 3 in the Straw Hat saw the man sitting cross-legged on the ground and wiping the sword in front of him. Swordsman. One of the mainstays of the Straw Hat Pirates, the 3 swordsman, the pirate hunter, Roronoa Zoro, put his hand lightly on the hilt of the sword on his waist, and smiled. Of course it goes without saying, the opponent is me. Right. 3 swords. Sakata, who was wiping his sword leisurely, raised his head and glanced at the 3 swordsman who was walking on the opposite side. He looked a little surprised. The evil way in the evil way. Evil way. Zoro had a smile on his lips. As long as you can win, that's the right way. That's it. Sakata grinned. Of course I'll stay. Zoro said so. Of course. Sakata nodded. Although they are all weak, it is always better to fight with a swordsman than with other idlers, right? So, Luffy, Nympho Cook, see you later. Zoro was very excited. You can still encounter good things when you come to this sky island. Oh, I'll leave it to you then. Without any objection, the chef with the straw hat and curly eyebrows went up to the upper level. What a senseless act. Sakata watched the straw hat and the curly eyebrows step on the upper floor, and shook his head. There are people stronger than me at the bottom, let alone the captain at the top, definitely not them. Competitive opponents. Quote. I'll talk about it later if I can compete. Zoro laughed. I just need to do my own thing. After that, if they can't do it, let us help them. Oh. Sakata looked surprised. I understand why the captain takes you so seriously. Pay attention. Zoro was even more surprised. Da. The feet in black large-toe shoes stopped, not moving forward. Woo. Slowly, he lit a cigarette and put it in his mouth, then took a deep breath, and then slowly exhaled the smoke. The chef with curly eyebrows said calmly, sure enough, is my enemy you? Dino. Of course. Across from him, the man with a nonchalant smile replied, your enemy, of course, is me, Sanji. Sanji. Straw Hat looked surprised, do you know me? Well. Sanji nodded, it's my lifelong friend, so leave him to me, go up. Luffy, is the fire dragon right here? The last sentence was asked to Dino. That's right. Dino smiled. The captain is taking his lunch break here, and of course Miss Robin is up there. Okay, Sanji. Luffy said with a very serious expression, I'll leave this guy to you. I'll go up and fly that fire dragon, and then we'll go back with Robin. Oh, of course. Sanji returned with a bright smile. He. With a giggling smile, the man with his hand on the straw hat on his head stepped on the last stairs and ran up the stairs, shouting, Fire Dragon. I'm coming. Fire Dragon Pirates vs Straw Hat Pirates, the battle has just begun. Chapter 454 First Meeting. Luffy and Vlad. Yahahaha. Vlad sat up, slumped his back, half-opened his eyes, sat cross-legged on the reclining chair, put his hands on his legs to support his face, and said lightly, it's really interesting, woo-ha-ha, the Dragon Pirates versus the Straw Hat Sea. Band of thieves, you say, who will be the victor? Nicole Robin, now, what do you think? Quote. Nico Robin was writing hard, not speaking, and honestly doing what Vlad asked her to do. X23 US. Com updates fastest. Hey, I'm asking you. Vlad asked lazily, didn't you hear that? Nicole Robin. I really can't think of a reason for the Straw Hats to win. The voice was very calm. Nicole Robin stood up, sorted the pages in her hand, stood up, looked back into Vlad's eyes, and the woman said, even in the world it is also the well-known Fire Dragon Pirates, how could a group of budding pirates be able to defeat it? Quote. Is that so? Vlad smiled, but wasn't the crocodile you followed just defeated by the Straw Hat? Without Fire Fist, even a gang of Straw Hats wouldn't be a match for Crocodile. Robin walked up to Vlad and handed Vlad the pages in his hand. Also, Mr. Vlad, I have already written what you want. Oh. Vlad was instantly refreshed. Although it was fun to play with the Straw Hats, it was obvious that the details of the ancient script were more important. Excitedly, he took the thick stack of pages from Robin's hand. Vlad was a little surprised. As expected of Nico Robin, he was efficient. A dozen hands were working at the same time, and the speed was really fast. Well. Vlad opened the page in his hand with anticipation on his face. After all, this is what he desires most at the moment. What Kazuki Oden didn't fully teach him at that time due to time constraints finally needs to be completed now. This is also a relief for the language teacher who has died, right? However, after flipping a few pages hastily, the smile on Vlad's face gradually disappeared, and the original lazy attitude appeared on him again. The whole person was like a sponge, soft and without the slightest drive. Hey, Robin-chan. Vlad raised his head, Vivi squinted his eyes, and asked with a smile, is this the ancient text written on the historical text that records the history of the blank 100 years? Well, that's right. Robin nodded calmly and said softly, it's all recorded here, common vocabulary, and general grammar. That's it. Vlad smiled, haha, that's really hard work for you. Quote. Robin was suddenly uneasy. You said. The red scales on Vlad's palm, which was holding the page, began to grow. Robin, why do humans always fail to correctly recognize their own situation? What? Robin took 2 steps back involuntarily. There. The flames soared into the sky, and the pages of the book Vlad held in his hand instantly dissipated under the burning of the platinum fire, and not even a little ashes remained. Why are you lying to me? Vlad looked a little distressed. He put his head on his hands and looked at Nico Robin, who seemed to have a calm face and didn't do anything. He said, isn't this difficult for me to do? What are you talking about? Robin looked confused. I don't understand, Mr. Vlad, I didn't lie to you, I've written down everything I know about ancient scripts. Ah, really? Vlad said impatiently, you, taking me for a fool. Miss Robin, since you insist that you didn't lie to me, then tell me, Miss Robin, the word, pruka, what does it mean? Pruka. Robin began to sweat gradually on his forehead, meaning, river, small river. River, river. The expression on Vlad's face suddenly became serious, and his eyes were suddenly sharp. Shouldn't it mean a big ship? Quote. Nico Robin was stiff and speechless. Really, a man who made a deep impression on me specially emphasized to me, pruka, this word refers to the big ship. Vlad's figure appeared in front of the woman, his face was almost on the woman's face, gradually turning golden, his pupils began to elongated eyes staring at Nico Robin's eyes. I'm starting to have a very good impression of you. So, why? Vlad squeezed the woman's head with a big hand and said coldly, why do you want to break this beauty? Vlad is very angry. Of course, the so-called ancient texts that Nico Robin gave him are all made up, the fonts are correct, but the meaning is all nonsense, let alone grammar. Vlad's sense of Nico Robin is of course very good. Men generally have a good perception of beautiful women, not to mention that Nico Robin is a very popular girl in the original work. However, this is not the reason why she can fool Vlad. Really? Vlad said with some distress, what should I do? I hate being deceived, so, do I want to kill you? But if I kill you, no one will know the ancient script. If you want to go to Laugh Tale, you can. I can't do it, it's so annoying. Otherwise. Vlad's hand moved down and grabbed Robin's thin but still soft shoulders. As punishment, just burn one of your hands. Neat. The woman's eyes widened. Fire dragon. At this time, Vlad heard such a voice coming from the stairs on one side. I'm coming. Oh. Vlad's eyes lit up, he threw Robin aside and grinned, the man finally came, the day of the meeting finally came. It's finally here, Straw Hat Luffy. In the shadow of the stairs, the man rushed out. Robin. I haven't seen my face clearly, but this loud voice is very impressive, I'm here to save you. Luffy. The woman lying on the ground had visible surprise on her face, why? Come back with me, Robin. Man, monkeyed Luffy rushed out of the stairwell, stood opposite Vlad, and shouted happily while watching Nico Robin lying on the ground. Yeah, really. Vlad smiled, this is the first time we've met, right? Straw Hat Luffy. Well. The Straw Hat turned his head, and then saw Vlad standing leisurely, his pupils visibly shrunk. You guy, is the fire dragon Vlad? Well. Vlad nodded, it's me, one of the Shichibukai under the king, the fire dragon Vlad, the ruler of this sky island, the realm of the gods. What about you? I am. As if announcing, the Straw Hat shouted. To be the man of One Piece, king of pirates. Chapter 455, Judge's Plan. On his head is a straw hat that looks unremarkable, but Vlad knows that the straw hat used to be the hat of the first One Piece, King of Pirates Gold Roger, and it belongs to the red-haired Shanks after Roger. The hat is really a hat with a strong legendary color. X23 US. Com updates fastest. There is a scar under the left eye, and Vlad knew that it was not left by an enemy, but the man himself slashed his face with a knife. With a very serious expression on his face, Vlad of course knew that whenever this man showed such an expression, someone would be out of luck. This time, it was Vlad himself who made this man show this expression, so he is very interested. Will he be unlucky this time? Monkey D. Luffy. Vlad recited the name with great interest. The man in front of him was different from everyone he had met before. This guy was the man who brought countless joy and touching to him in the previous life, so. You want to be One Piece King of Pirates. Exactly. Vlad said, One Piece King of Pirates is also my goal, that is, are you my competitor? Funny, what a guy who knows nothing and wants to be my enemy. Since it is the character that I loved in my previous life, of course I can't let go of water. The only thing I have to do is to treat this man with all my strength. This is respect for him and respect for myself. This man is undoubtedly him. A recognized opponent. For such a man, it is not good to have a joking attitude. Since he is already standing opposite him, he must be serious. Just like Teach at that time, Vlad will never stay. Hand. I'm the man to be One Piece King of Pirates. The man in the straw hat stood in front of Vlad without any fear, and said solemnly, So, you bastard, return Robin to me. Without the help of my partner, I can't be a One Piece King of Pirates. Quote. Yeah, Tilda. Vlad smiled strangely. It's really interesting, for a crew member who has not been on board for a long time to be able to attack a completely unmatched enemy. You bastard. Isn't it a bit too reckless? This kind of behavior is simply courting death, right? In this way, in order to save one partner and take the lives of all other partners, wouldn't it be too much of a loss? Robin, Zoro, Nami, Usopp, Sanji, Brook, Chopper, all my buddies, I'll take them back because. The straw hat took a heavy step, and his fist was already smashing towards Vlad's face. This man is different from most of the hot-blooded comic male protagonists, and he definitely doesn't like talking nonsense about things that can be done with his fists. I will blow you away. Woo-ha-ha. Vlad's face instantly put on a dangerous smile. How interesting. Vinsmoke Judge also started his action in the huge laboratory inside the Fire Dragon Pirate Shrine. Lord Judge. In the huge laboratory, there are no windows, but it is still very bright, with plenty of light. Of course, Judge is surrounded by scientists from the Vinsmoke family who were taken over by the Fire Dragon Pirates with him. On the other side, the famous because the man in Paso didn't notice the situation on this side at all, he was still doing his own experiments in the presence of the old god, and there was nothing to disturb him at all. Even if Judge and his gang were talking about the riots by his side, he did not notice. Do you really want to do it? A white coat asked with some fear. Is there any other way but to do it? Judge's eyes were fixed on the back of Paso on the other side, and his tone was very low. If we are hesitating, the Vinsmoke family is really going to end. Judge is very self-aware. He knows his own children best. If those guys are fighting, they can still make a living, but if they want to lead a country and continue the research of the Vinsmoke family, that is absolutely impossible. If he is still imprisoned by the Fire Dragon, it is estimated that it will not be long before the Kingdom of Germa will be removed from the World Conference. This is something that Judge absolutely cannot accept. This man has spent his life trying to reproduce the North Blue royal family. Glory and effort. Therefore, he must escape from the Fire Dragon pirates. But those guys. The white coat looked worried. It's absolutely impossible to be the opponent of the Fire Dragon, right? This is of course, no one would think that the fledgling pirate group can defeat the Fire Dragon pirates with a bounty of more than 1 billion with just 3 people, and the winning rate is naturally 0. Win. Judge said softly, of course I didn't expect them to win. No matter how much you want to fight, the Straw Hat Pirates have no chance of winning. So, the white coat is very confused. Since he knows that he is not an opponent, why should he start taking action? Isn't this courting death? Our hearts are still in the hands of the fire dragon. Even if we kidnapped Mr. Passo, it would be useless. The fire dragon could easily kill us all. There is no point in resisting. This is the voice of most white coats. After all, they are only researchers. Even the strongest judge is just like a slapped salted fish in front of the fire dragon pirates, and their hearts are still in the fire dragon sea. In the hands of the thieves, there is absolutely no strength to resist. So our immediate priority is. Judge looked around and whispered, "Get our hearts back." What? A certain white coat couldn't help but shouted, "Take back the heart." That Dino is as strong as a monster. How could those brats snatch our hearts back from his hands? Of course no one else can. Judge whispered, "But a certain guy is okay." The white coat was stunned. "Although I don't want to admit it, but now, we can only rely on that kid Sanji." Judge said so. "Master Sanji." There are also very old guys in the white coats who know the existence of Sanji. Is he still alive? Judge nodded. "Yes, that kid is now the chef of the Straw Hat Pirates. Just right, that bastard Dino is also a chef, and the two of them are still the best friends. If it's Sanji, maybe they can take our hearts. Come back." After that, the white coat opened his eyes. With the help of the riots caused by the Straw Hats, the Fire Dragon Pirates have all gone out. I guessed right, these guys must be bored when they stay on Sky Island. How can they not want to encounter such a thing? To join in the fun. Judge turned his head to look at Passo, who was busy. "Once we get the heart back, then we'll hijack Passo immediately." Even a fire dragon probably wouldn't want to lose such an excellent scientist, right? But, in case. The white coat is very hesitant. Even though Sanji is Dino's best friend, what are the chances of really getting his heart back? Is it an exaggeration to say that it is minimal? Not in case. Judge's tone was unequivocal, "Nothing in case. This man has bet everything." Chapter 456 Duel. On the 4th floor of the Jingu Palace, two men are facing each other, lifelong best friends, but now they are tit-for-tat enemies. The so-called impermanence of the world may be such a thing. It's finally here, Sanji. The chef's voice was a little excited, and seemed to be very relieved. "I've been waiting for you for a long time." "Ha ha ha, I knew that a guy like you would definitely rush to the sea, that small restaurant. How can I limit you?" "Well." Curly Eyebrows nodded, and said with some emotion, "I didn't think that I would go to sea one day, but later I met Luffy. He invited me to board the boat. I didn't refuse, because I believe that he can become the man of peace, king of pirates. He needs my support on the way." One Piece King of Pirates. Dino smiled and said, "Is that so?" "That's right, if you don't have such ambition, Sanji, you wouldn't go out to sea with that guy, right? He seems to be an amazing guy, but, unfortunately, since he has already chosen with us as opponents, then that man's voyage will end here, because, my captain, Vlad the Dragon is the one who will finally be the One Piece King of Pirates." "It's not certain." Sanji slowly blew out a smoke ring and chuckled, "Who knows what will happen until the end?" "Ha ha ha, yes, yes, yes." Dino laughed and said, "Of course it's not too simple for someone who will make the captain pay so much attention. Okay, Sanji, although I really want to catch up with you again, but our current position does not allow us to do such a thing. So, come on, Sanji, let me see your progress." "Woo." He slowly blew out a smoke ring and replied with curled eyebrows, "Okay. Come with me." Dino smiled, "The front is my kitchen, let me see how you have improved since you went to sea." The curly-browed chef's eyes widened in surprise, "What? Of course a duel between us is not a battle." Chef said, "I want to beat you, of course, in the way that you are most proud of. Of course, to myself too. Then get ready to fail." Curly eyebrows smiled. Then try it. Chef said, if you can really beat me, there are no conditions to promise you. What? Sanji's eyes widened. Dash 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 dash. Attention. What do you mean? The green algae-headed swordsman frowned and asked. Literally. Sakata, who was sitting on the ground, raised the sword in his hand and nodded with satisfaction. If the captain doesn't pay attention to you, do you think you can stand in front of me now? It's already been destroyed before the shrine, right? Oh, is that so? Green Zhao's mouth twitched. What an arrogant guy. Yeah, I think so too. If the captain is an enemy, wouldn't it be better to just kill him? Sakata rarely said so much, and handed the sword forward in his hand. Look at it. Good. Zoro calmly took the knife from Sakata's hand, held it in his hand, and stared at the knife body with burning eyes. Nice knife. The blade is extremely long, the blade is thin and thin, the handle is engraved with a 16-petal chrysanthemum family emblem, and a horizontal line is engraved under it. It is a very beautiful and luxurious knife. Zoro sighed and handed the knife back gently. Sakata. Of course. Sakata took the knife and stood up. This is my teacher's relic. Of course it's a good knife, a big sharp knife with 21 work, and a chrysanthemum character. Your knife isn't bad either. Sakata looked at the white sword hanging on the waist of the green algae, but it revealed murderous aura in its simplicity. Yes, and a word with Tao. That's right. Zoro nodded. That's great. Sakata held the chrysanthemum and put the knife back into the scabbard. Let's see, who is more powerful between the two knives. Oh. Zoro put his hand on the hilt of the word Hidai. Interesting. One move. Sakata chuckled. One move is enough. Quote. A frenzied smile appeared on Chorometu's face. For a swordsman, the most gratifying thing was to fight against a stronger swordsman, even if such a duel would cost him his life. Crack. Crack. The knife shines. Dash 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 dash. The second floor of the shrine. Well. The maid looked back in surprise. Isn't it dead yet? Before the battle of the others has started, or just started, the battle of the maid is over, and the weak opponent has fallen in a pool of blood. No, it is not a battle at all. The opponent's weakness completely let the maid not interested. The man with the long nose was neither an old friend of the maid, nor a like-minded fellow traveler. This woman happened to be in a bad mood. The captain's wayward behavior made her very dissatisfied, so she had no intention of playing any more, and her arms turned into sharp swords. Before the opponent could react, he had already penetrated his chest. However, just as the maid was about to call someone to pick up the body, a firebird slid past her ear, and the long-nosed guy was not dead yet. Who? It was very difficult to breathe heavily, leaning against the wall, standing up from the ground little by little, his head drooping weakly, but the man firmly held the slingshot in his hand. Don't go. Well. The maid turned around in surprise. Isn't it good to just lie on the ground and wait to die? Luffy, the man to be One Piece, king of pirates. The man named Usopp was full of strong courage, but he can't do such a thing alone. He needs our help. I want to respond to his expectations and give him help. Although I'm just an ordinary person, although I'm not the same as those monsters, but... The man with the long nose raised his head, his bloodshot eyes filled with determination. I also want to dedicate my strength to his dream. Must kill, Firebird Star. I don't know where the power came from. Among the Straw Hat Gang who are all monsters, the only ordinary person got the power again when his chest had been pierced, and he suddenly pulled away the power in his hand. The slingshot, the winged firebird soared from the slingshot, and rushed straight to the maid who was standing there. Boom! Without the slightest evasion, the firebird bombarded the maid heavily, and a gust of hot wind instantly hung in the airtight space. Hit! Usopp looked unbelievable, he really didn't expect his attack to hit the opponent. Really? The smoke dissipated, revealing the maid's naturally unharmed body. The woman's face was full of impatience. Although I understand why the captain treats you differently, it's still too boring. So. She raised her right hand, and the shape of her palm changed instantly, like a transformer transformed, the machine tossed in her hand, and a muzzle flashing cold light appeared in her hand. Goodbye. Chapter 457 The End of the Battle. Jingu, the first floor, the battle between the two musicians is very strange. The beautiful piano sound circulated in the empty hall. The musician of the Fire Dragon Pirates, a woman named Serena, sat leisurely in front of the piano and played. The melodious piano sound is definitely able to make the most discerning music critics. It also worships the existence of gods. There is such music in the world. For people who love music, I am afraid it is almost the same as a miracle, right? What kind of feeling should this be? Named Brooke felt that way. What kind of music is this? But Brooke's body is no longer as agile as before, and it looks a little dull. The strong jumping power that was originally due to the skeleton's body no longer exists. Boom. The huge claws slammed heavily on the ground, and the hard ground instantly opened a big hole. If Brooke still has a face, then his face must be full of cold sweat now. If such a huge force hits his body, I am afraid that his bones will be destroyed. Interrupt directly. What's wrong with feeling? Ouch. The huge white wolf was a little annoyed that the attack had not succeeded, and the ferocious sharp teeth were hidden in it, and the big mouth from which the stench was dripping had already bitten at Brooke. As a wolf, although he did not like it as much as his close relatives eating meat, but not rejecting it. Kong. Quote. Brooke twisted his body laboriously. Thanks to his body without physical restraints, the movements he was able to perform were far more terrifying than ordinary people. His upper body leaned back, his body was almost folded in half, and his back almost touched his leg bone. It does look a little scary. Ow! The big dog growled loudly, and the corners of its hideous mouth seemed to have a little smile. Crack! Boom! Just like swatting a fly, the dull Brooke finally failed to withstand the blow, and was slapped directly by the big dog's paw, crashing directly into the wall opposite the hall. Is it over? The piano sound stopped, and Serena's face did not show any happiness. Instead she looked very upset and dissatisfied. This is the end. It's so weak. Hey. No fun at all. Woo. The body began to shrink, and the white wolf that turned back into a half-wolf and half-mechanical once again stretched out his tongue and ran to his master's side. Of ferocity. Bang. Whoosh. The ruins burst open, the rubble flew, and a black shadow rushed out of the ruins at an extremely fast speed, rushing towards Serena like lightning. Hey. Serena was not afraid at all, her face even got a little excited. That's a little interesting. Ah. Brooke's sprint stopped abruptly, and tears suddenly poured out of the bear skeleton's face. Whoa 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 whoa. The man who has endured decades of loneliness without being shaken can only lie on the ground and cry. What? Serena twitched the corners of her mouth. Is that all there is to it? Then. Little white. Roar. The huge white wolf appeared in the room again. Dash 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 dash. In the square outside the shrine, a huge noise caused the gravel on the ground to fly up and down. Boom. 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 The hard ground is like being curd slag, constantly bursting open big holes. Like a hill, the giant bear has no intention of pity and cherishing Jade, and every time he attacks with enough power to easily smash his opponent into meat sauce. Wow. The beautiful orange-haired woman jumped forward vigorously. Behind her, where she was standing, the huge bear's paw had already slammed into the ground. Earth. What the hell is going on with this guy? Miss Nami quickly got up. She didn't have time to let her take a break in the face of such an opponent. Didn't you still look like a shy little bear just now? What the hell is going on with this frenzied look? Just before, Nami chose to stay and fight this white bear. After all, the opponent is a navigator, of course, her opponent, and it looks like it is easier to bully, but who would know that it is just an illusion? She was a little shy at first, and she was afraid that her white bear ate something that looked like a gummy candy, and immediately turned into this huge banging bear, and every attack looked like she wanted to. It's like killing her directly. It's always jumping up and down. It's really annoying. Then, Nami heard this voice coming from above. Are you fooling me? Damn bug. The woman raised her head in a daze, her eyes slowly starting to widen. Crackling. There was some scorching sound in the air, and the dazzling electric light had already suppressed the light of the sun. What? Ah. Miss Navigator couldn't help but take 2 steps back. No way. On the hands of the giant bear-shaped Babo, the turbulent electric light is entangled. This is the ability of the fur tribe, the ability to manipulate static electricity, and then, not only that, the tricks Babo is using now have been out of the scope of static electricity. Like Enel's Thunderbolt. Stop joking. Beppo raised his fists high and roared, give it to me. Go to hell. Crackling. Dash 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 dash. Under the shrine, above the huge vines, the battle between the doctors of the 2 pirates has come to an end. Help, woohoo, Luffy, Usopp, help. What could be called a miserable cry spread in the air for nowhere, and the doctor named Chopper was effectively defeated by a man named Trafalgar Luo. Don't yell, Dr. Chopper. Luo sat cross-legged on the ground with a very serious expression, and said solemnly, if something goes wrong, you have to start over. The ship doctor of the Straw Hat Pirates cried and closed his mouth, in a better form than humans. The strange thing is that Dr. Chopper is not by Luo's side. There are only a bunch of weird parts in front of Luo, but if you look closely, you can find that Dr. Chopper is here. Hey, this is... Luo picked up a part and said with some distress, does it have a large intestine? By the way, does a civet cat have a large intestine? Forget it, don't care, let's put it together. It's a reindeer. Who's a civet cat? The one who was left alone by Luo shouted so loudly, also, you bastard, what are you doing? Luo casually inserted the parts in his hand into the already spelled body in front of him, and said casually, don't say anything, Dr. Chopper, I'm not responsible for spelling mistakes. Chopper could only let out a feeble whimper. Trafalgar, Luo, is a very childlike man. After defeating Chopper, he played a jigsaw puzzle with him. Chapter 458 Strong and Weak. Under the shrine, in the forest not far from the huge vines, compared to the strife above the shrine, the real battle is unfolding here. X23 US. Com updates fastest. Bah. Mars shot straight up, and the petite black shadow dashed forward like lightning. It was far beyond the ability of pure human vision to see clearly. The 6 eyes on the sharp head looked around in different directions. At an incomprehensible level, thermal induction is also quietly operating. While possessing super agility, he is also not too sensitive in terms of sensitivity. Perhaps, this guy has reached the level of observation hockey in this aspect. The claws on the forelimbs extend extremely long, turning into a crescent-like weapon, and the flickering cold light on it makes it clear that this is a murder weapon that can easily tear apart the human body. The machete slashed like a phantom on the cloud iron longsword that was entwined with fluctuations, and the sparks seemed to set the air on fire. Damn! The blue veins on Ohm's forehead burst out, and it has been strengthened. His arms that bulge high and bulge are trembling. The amazing strength that passes through the long sword in his hand makes him a little unable to hold the long sword in his hand. You know, the opponent, but it's just a small thing, the size of a puppy. Such power is too unreasonable, right? Weppa, quote. Ohm shouted so loudly, although such a guy is reluctant to admit it, this thing is not an opponent that he can contend against alone. This kind of battle is no longer something that ordinary magic soldiers can participate in. On the side, the captain-level magic soldier who originally participated in the battle has already lied down, and can only survive with the help of the power of recovery gummies. Get away from me. Holding the lower part of the snake cannon with both hands, Weppa shouted, the 3-section-long legs provided a powerful jumping force. The whole person jumped up, carrying the huge force that fell from the sky. VV's somewhat black snake cannon is enough. The terrifying force of the mountain and rocks blasted the chimera. Gia. Quote. A very sharp roar came out of his mouth. Chimera's back eye had locked on Wapa, who fell from the sky, and the red eyes were full of tyranny. Although there was no wisdom, it didn't mean that this guy would standing on the spot and letting people fight. On the contrary, it is precisely because the genes of many kinds of beasts have merged. This guy has a fighting intuition far surpassing that of humans, or, in other words, wildness. Gaaaaa. Quote. The forelimbs slammed on Ohm's cloud iron sword, and the chimera arrows swept across the sky, easily avoiding Wapa's attack. Boom. Damn. Of course, Wapa's heavy blow could not be stopped, and a big hole was blasted on the ground. The extremely valuable soil in Sky Island far surpassed Going's soil and flew around. Of course, it did not bring any harm to Chimera. This guy. Wapa raised his head sharply, and the not-so-skilled observation hockey locked onto that monster, but the speed was so amazing that even if he could notice it, he couldn't catch up with its speed. Because of observation hockey's lock-in, his cognition is biased. Jaa. Quote. With such a roar, the chimera that fell to the ground underwent a huge change again. The 6 legs below the belly stretched suddenly, and VV's body was already ejected, and it was like lightning. Wapa. In the air, the monster's body began to change again. The hard cuticle quickly covered his 6 limbs, and in the blink of an eye, it had turned into a 6-handed meniscus. With saliva hanging down from the corner of his mouth, Chimera instantly approached Wapa. At this time, this guy, had just exited, and the person was still in a stiff state. Such an attack was completely irresistible. Chi-chi-chi-chi-chi-chi. Chimera's 6 limbs began to turn violently in the air, beams of sword light bloomed in the air, and the 6 meniscus that could easily tear gold and iron into the most beautiful flower. Such an attack, once hit, can easily cut the human body into meat sauce. Get out of the way. Wapa couldn't react, but others were able to react. Ohm roared, kicked Wapa away, and the cloud iron sword in his hand had already slashed towards Chimera. Ding! If you slow down the speed of Chimera, you can find a very scary scene. The meniscus turned into a forelimb hook directly on Ohm's sword, and his body swings, and this guy has easily avoided Ohm. With a blow, he once again charged towards the man who had just been kicked by Ohm and was rolling on the ground. Wapa. Quote. All Ohm can do now is yell, shouting for the lives of his comrades. Wapa turned around and saw the dazzling light of the sword. Crackling. A blue thunderstorm fell from the sky. Giaaaa. Quote. Screams erupted from the mouth of the petite black shadow shrouded in lightning. Yeah ha ha. Dash 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 dash. Hoo 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 hoo. Breathing heavily in his mouth, the man in the straw hat got up from the ground with some difficulty, shook his head heavily, sobered his chaotic head, blinked, and let the afterimages in front of him dissipate. Ah! Roaring like this, his already trembling feet stomped heavily on the ground, the straw hat body had been shot out, both hands stretched back, and his eyes stared at Vlad, who was facing him. Rubber rubber. There was still blood flowing from the corners of his mouth, his face was bruised, and the man with a dazed line of sight once again launched an attack on the invincible enemy. Really? Vlad smiled and stood motionless. Since the two started fighting, he has been standing there. The guy in the straw hat can't make him move for the time being. Bazooka. The speed of the straw hat is not slow, at least it is a little faster than Vlad's speaking speed, and the attack through the elastic rebound has already blasted towards Vlad's stomach. PFF'd. Very low voice. Vlad didn't even use hockey, his physique is enough to completely defend the attack of the straw hat. Damn. Biting the corner of his mouth heavily, the straw hat threw his fist back, and stomped heavily on the ground. Rubber rubber cyclotron. The fist that was swirling and popped forward had already slammed towards Vlad again. Oh, it's so boring. Vlad sighed and stretched out his right hand. Crack! In the unwilling eyes of the straw hat, Vlad easily caught his fist, not to mention the injury, not even a bit of shaking. It's so boring, it's so weak. Vlad was talking like this, and with a gentle pull, he had already pulled the straw hat over, and the left fist with a faint wave had already slammed into the straw hat's head. PFF'd. Blood spurted out of his mouth, and the man was blown away by Vlad's punch. Don't go. Vlad's right hand holding the straw hat fist did not loosen, but with another pull, he directly pulled the man who had been blown away again. Hey! Vlad released his right hand and directly grabbed the neck of the flying straw hat. Are you still conscious? Chapter 459 End. Jingu, on the 4th floor, belongs to the chef's kitchen, and the competition between the two chefs has come to the end. The two men were fighting against each other across the table, with a cigarette in the mouth of the curled eyebrows. Dino smiled softly. The two did not fight like the others. As chefs, of course they have to compete. It's just cooking. After all, isn't it too cruel to have two close friends fight for life and death? Vlad did not ask Dino how to defeat his opponent. Anyway, as long as victory is enough, Dino thinks so. Defeating him in Sanji's most proud aspect is a complete victory. On the table between the two people, there are two plates covered with lids. The works of the two people are all here, and it is these two plates that decide the victory. Come on, Sanji. Dino smiled and said softly, the battle in other places is probably over. It's not good for us to delay it for too long. If we fail, I don't need to say more about the outcome, right? Ah, of course. Sanji nodded and replied, although we are friends, we are now rivals of the two camps. If I lose, of course there is nothing to say. Haha, I've been looking forward to seeing you again a few years ago. Dino said, looking forward to a real duel as two chefs galloping on the sea when we meet again. The day has finally arrived. If I really want to say, this day I have been waiting for 10 years. For a few years, as early as when we left the Vinsmoke family, I believed that the two of us would become first-class chefs in the sea, and I am looking forward to a formal duel with you. So if I lose, it's nothing to give you the hearts of those Vinsmokes. But... Sanji hesitated, where is your captain? It's okay. Cook said, the captain said earlier that the Vinsmokes let me handle it myself. You know about my feud with them, don't you? So, no problem, let's talk about it. Dino said this, with a disapproving expression on his face. What if you give them your heart back? Just go and get it again. Those guys, they haven't been able to resist our strength. It's you, Sanji. The chef looked curious. How would you help judge that guy? Because. Sanji hesitated for a moment, and finally said, he helped us too. Helped you? Dino twitched the corners of his mouth. Maybe it would be the best choice for you to just leave before. Absolutely not. Sanji's tone was decisive. Ha ha ha, maybe. Dino smiled and lifted the lid in front of him. Let's not say more. Our duel, now is the time to win. Oh. With a smile on Sanji's face, he stretched out his hand to lift the lid on the plate in front of him. For like-minded friends, this kind of battle is really enjoyable. Oh. The chef raised his eyebrows and smiled even more. Haha, Sanji, it seems that we really have a good understanding. Dino, you bastard. Sanji also laughed. I really can't forget it. The other side's dishes placed in front of the two were surprisingly the same style, 2 apple pies. This was the first time a kid named Sanji made it for another kid on that night a long, long time ago. Although the apple pie doesn't look like apple pie at all, it is indeed a food full of commemorative meanings for the two of them. Then I'll start. The chef smiled, picked up a spoon and dug a spoon out of the apple pie in front of him and put it into his mouth. Well. The chef's eyes widened, and then he picked up the plate on the table, and sent it to his mouth in decent spoon after spoon, which looked really delicious. Then I too. Sanji picked up the plate and also dug a spoonful and put it into his mouth. Ah. Sanji narrowed his eyes. then put the plate in his hand on the table and let out a long sigh of relief. Alas, I lost. Sanji sighed with a wry smile, and said softly, I lost. Ha ha. The chef no longer had the usual gentlemanly demeanor, licked the plate cleanly, and said with a smile, I really won. I am really not reconciled. Sanji shook his head, I still can't beat you guy. It's already 2-1, isn't it? The chef put the plate in his hand on the table and chuckled. Yeah. Sanji nodded. Since I won. Chef's expression became serious, then go to see the captain with me, I'll try my best. The curly-browed chef nodded. Since he had already lost, there was nothing to say. The loser was speechless. Dash 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 dash. On the third floor of the shrine, the battle between the two swordsmen ended much faster than the battle of the others, and in just an instant, the outcome was already decided. Crack! Crack! The two knives were unsheathed at the same time, and the two men standing opposite each other rushed towards each other like cheetahs. Ding! Two dazzling knife lights flashed, like two moons appearing in the night sky at the same time, like two meteors suddenly streaking across the deep and icy universe, short but extremely bright. Scoff! Not far away, the wall suddenly broke, and the powerful slash easily cut off everything in front of it, and the shrine, which was not so beautiful, was destroyed. One knife flow, ocean current. Sakata gently retracted the sword into its sheath, and behind him, the swordsman with the green algae head was doing the same thing. One blade stream, lion song. Woo. Sakata straightened up and sighed, it's really troublesome. His eyes looked at the wall that was torn apart by the splashing sword energy on the other side, and he looked helpless, cut the wall open. This time, Baby 5 will say it again. Although BABY 5 is nominally a maid in the Fire Dragon Pirates, in fact, the economic power of the team is in the hands of this woman, and such a fearless loss will of course be scolded by that woman. Sakata turned his head and said softly, really, a swordsman of the three swords style, you have caused me a lot of trouble. Can't even control your own sword. PFF'd. His back to Sakata, Zoro's chest burst open, and blood spurted out. Boom. The man with the green algae head fell to the ground weakly, and the result of the battle was already determined from the very beginning. Well. Sakata bowed his head in surprise, looking very unbelievable. On his chest, at the position of the placket, a small gap appeared on it at some point. You guy. Sakata raised his head and looked at Zoro, who was already lying on the ground. It's not bad. Chapter 460 Thor and Chimera and Paso and Judge. GIAAAAAA. Quote. In the blue and white lightning beam, the petite monster made a shrill scream, even though the body surface had extremely strong armor, even if this layer of armor was enough to easily block most of the attacks, but in the face of it. This kind of lightning attack is also somewhat powerless. X23 US. Com updates fastest. Yeah haha. In Waipa and Ohm's astonished eyes, a thunder light descended from the sky, hitting the ground heavily, and the man with his upper body laughing appeared in front of them. Ohm's eyes widened, and a feeling of after a catastrophe suddenly appeared in his heart, Lord Enel. This man was originally one of Enel's 4 priests, and was very loyal to Enel. Even now that he has become a subordinate of the Fire Dragon Pirates, this guy's feelings for Enel are different. Really? Enel didn't care about Ohm's reaction, and turned around angrily, with a cold expression on his face. You guys, is it so easy to be pushed to such a point? What a joke, the captain asked you to take on the guards. The mission of the Jingu, is that how you stick to it? That group of Blue Sea pirates didn't stop it, and they have nothing to do with such a guy. Without the slightest relief, Enel scolded indifferently, this is too ugly. If you accept the captain's mission with such a conscientious mind, then it's up to me to destroy you, Fire Dragon Pirates. I don't need guys like you. Quote. Sir Enel. Ohm lowered his head, completely speechless in the face of the man's scolding. Jaa. Quote. The thunderlight dissipated, and the 6 arms of the charred chimera retracted, lying on the ground like a gecko, 6 blood-red eyes staring at Enel, and a sharp roar seemed to sound like a warning. Sound. The amazing situation is that this guy's injuries are recovering visibly to the naked eye, far faster than the recovery speed of the Divine Soldier team. Indeed. Enel didn't care about the chimera, who was extremely powerful for the people of the Shinbing team. This man was very dissatisfied with the performance of the Shinbing team. This thing is very powerful for you, and it is not something you can easily defeat. Guys, but, that's not an excuse. Whoosh. Maybe he noticed Enel's ignorance, maybe he realized that this was a good opportunity. Chimera jumped up. His mouth was wide open. The arc of the opening has exceeded ordinary people's imagination. This guy's mouth began to expand, more and more. The bigger it is, until the mouth has far exceeded its own volume, until it can bite down half of Enel's body in one bite. Scoff. Enel's body disappeared instantly, and Chimera's 6 eyes stared blankly, not understanding what was going on. Touch. Chimera's eyes seemed to protrude from their sockets. The originally wide mouth was now tightly closed. A big foot fell from the sky and stepped heavily on its head, and the huge head was directly stepped into the ground. The dense cracks spread on the ground. When God speaks. Enel said condescendingly, keep me humble. Bugs. Crackling. Lightning soared into the sky. Gudong. With Enel the longest and knows the man's temper the best, swallowed a spit involuntarily. Lord Enel seems to be really in a bad mood right now. This guy is strong, yes. Enel said, but why can't you be stronger? Wapa stood up straight, his face a little ugly. Remember, idiots. Enel looked around, looked at the somewhat ashamed Divine Soldier team, and said loudly, as a member of the Fire Dragon Pirates, as the people who follow the captain, you guys are never allowed to be weak. Allowed. Dash 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 dash. Jingu, belonging to Passo's laboratory. Blue blue blue. Quote. The laboratory, which was still somewhat silent, suddenly sounded some sharp chirping sounds. Click. Judge picked up the phone bug in his hand with anticipation on his face. How is it, Sanji? Got it, got it. Quote. Quote. There was silence, and no one spoke. Sanji. Judge was suddenly very flustered. Originally, he wanted Sanji to help him take back his and other people's hearts from Dino's hands. I have to say, this is really a risky thing, but Judge thinks Sanji is very likely to succeed. He is very clear about the friendship between Sanji and Dino. I am sorry, Mr. Judge. There was such a voice suddenly from the opposite side. The voice of the young man was not Sanji's voice, but the voice of that man named Croft Dino. If Sanji is going to meet the captain with me, come over quickly too. Quote. What? Judge's eyes widened, the phone's microphone could no longer be held, and he fell heavily to the ground. Better hurry up, Mr. Judge. Dino finally said, your behavior makes the captain very unhappy. If you don't want to die, you'd better come over and apologize to the captain right away. Click. The chef hangs up. Quote. Quote. Judge was dumbfounded, speechless. There was no doubt that the plan was completely shattered, and even, was it all exposed from the very beginning. So, are all your activities carried out under the gaze of the fire dragon? That bastard. Judge scolded suddenly, tears streaming from his eyes, that bastard. Fire dragon, are you playing with me like a monkey? Lord Judge, we. Compared to Judge's anger, the other white coats were already frightened. Such behavior was discovered by the fire dragon, and it was impossible to guess what would happen to them. What the hell are we going to do? Really, what are you arguing about? It was very abrupt. Such a voice came from one side, and Paso, who had been concentrating on experimenting, was startled by Judge's roar. It's all of you. Noticing Paso, Judge seemed to have a vent, rushed forward, grabbed Paso's collar, and said loudly, you bastard, it's all because of you. Vinsmoke ah, Vinsmoke ah, quote. Paso, who was dangling, looked puzzled, what are you talking about? Fire Dragon Pirates. Judge shoved Paso to the ground hard, his eyes ferocious, like a ghost. Oh, that's right. As if remembering something, Paso took out an injection, inserted it into his body, and stood up. The captain asked Enel to tell me. Let me fix you well, I almost forgot. Thank you Judge, if you forget it, you'll be scolded by the captain again. Judge is a little confused. Carrara. The body was pulled up suddenly, and Paso's shadow had already covered Judge's body. So, please grit your teeth and persevere. Mr. Judge.